Welcome everyone to the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is another one of our deep dive movie reviews. And this one in particular, really means a lot to me. Two of my favorite characters, period, are Bill and Ted. Like I've played in bands for years. A lot of that I think starts from this movie, from these two characters. I don't remember how I initially discovered Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I knew that I was about 5 years old when the movie came out in 1989. At some point, I don't know whose idea it was, but like at some point, my parents must have rented it and I must have really liked it. And maybe because the way they talked reminded me of Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles. I'm not sure what the connection was there, but like I ended up just loving this movie and just thought everything these guys said was hilarious. Even like kind of as I grew older, like I kind of forgot about it for a little bit. Then when I was in junior high, I kind of rediscovered it and finally saw the second movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, that came out later. But this one, I mean, I look at what I do now as far as like being a guy in a band and just how much I love rock music and hard rock, and like these guys were sort of the guys that I looked up to when I was little. Like all I wanted to do when I was like 5 and 6 was to be a teenager so I could go and hang out with Bill and Ted and play guitars and meet princesses and everything else that they did in this movie. So it's these two characters really hold a special place in my heart, as does this movie, and so I'm glad that to finally go and do a review of this. I'm glad that they finally put out Bill and Ted Face the Music last year. That really was a lot of fun for me to see that in the theaters. It's actually the only movie I've seen in the theaters, post COVID so far. But this movie is something that means a lot to me personally. So I'm really glad to kind of revisit this and go and sort of do this. Not necessarily a watch along. That's not really what these are. But I mean, we kind of break it down scene for scene, and I went through it and took notes, and I wanted to get some members of my family on here. And you guys who listen to my show probably recognize these two guys when they did another 1989 movie with me, which was Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, starring Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. So my two cousins, the Gaspero brothers, Jimmy and Bobby, guys, welcome.
Thanks for having us. I continuing my streak of reviewing movies that came out when I was 10 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm a big fan of time travel movies in general, but I think there's a lot to love about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I think for the most part it still holds up 30 years later, and I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to talk about it.
Gotcha. Did you guys? What's your first memories of this movie? Did you go see it in the theater when it came out? Do you guys remember?
I'll go first. I don't remember the first time I saw it. I want to say that I probably did see it in the theater. Mm-hmm. I know I saw Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey in the theater. I still specifically remember seeing that and who I was with when that first came out, but I'm just not sure, the memories aren't as clear, but I'm right. Sure I did at 10 years old see it in the movie theater.
I mean, it's bizarre. Like it's bizarre to think about when like this was such like a low budget, kind of movie. Like no one really expected this to do well at all. And I mean, the budget on it was like 6.5 million. It ended up grossing like 40 million back then. And like we said when we did Batman '89, that was like one of the biggest blockbuster summers like of all time. There were so many huge movies that came out in '89, but this one in particular hit in a way that like it really hit like much higher than it ever had any right to. Like there was a Saturday morning cartoon show that spun off from it. There was even a cereal at one point. Like it just
I don't know if that I was thinking about that with this. Like, I don't know if that happens anymore because, I watch kids shows sometimes with my kids, but it just seems so ubiquitous back then that if a movie hit, there would be a Saturday morning cartoon, there'd be a comic book, there'd mm-hmm. be a cereal about it. And I mean, we still have a bunch of those old comic books for every movie that was a TV show. I mean, yes. I remember Back to the Future had a cartoon, mm-hmm. and so many other television shows at that time from 1989 or the early 90s, mm-hmm. had had a cartoon or whatnot.
They do that franchise stuff though.
Yeah, there was a real stretch of that for a while. Like I remember like just like seeing commercials of like Bill and Ted's Excellent Cereal. Like, wow, you know you've made it when you have a cereal
Yeah.
named after you.
And there was like a James Bond Jr. that was a cartoon.
Yes. But like I remember James Bond Jr. was not his son though. It was his nephew.
Right.
Weird choice.
Right.
Like how could he be a junior at that point? But I digress.
Right.
But yeah, like that was like a whole like stretch. Like I remember The Mask had its own, the Mask with Jim Carrey had its own Saturday morning cartoon show. There was even a stretch where you would have like R-rated movies like Rambo and Terminator would have like either a cartoon show or a toy line or something like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, RoboCop too.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to say RoboCop had like a cartoon or something with
Like
it, right?
Even Police Academy did for a stretch there.
Yeah. I mean, RoboCop has no business being a child's cartoon.
They had action figures made out of RoboCop. I remember I had one.
Yeah. I mean, the seminal moment of that movie, RoboCop, shoots a guy in the nards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not PG.
Yeah, not
at all.
Not for the guy.
No, certainly not for him. It didn't end well for him.
Unless PG stands for penis gone.
Well, good pull.
Just bleep that.
Wow,
Cut
no, we're keeping that. That's gold.
Woo!
That's a good line. Jimmy's coming in hot. I like it. This is cool. Yeah, before we go through the plot, I know it was written by these two guys, Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson, and throughout the 80s, these guys met when they were in college. They were, I think they were improv comics, and they basically developed the characters as like a stand-up routine that they would do together, just as like sort of like an improv thing where they would perform as the two characters while they were in college. I think I forget where they went to school. I think it might have been UCLA, but yeah, they had just eventually developed a screenplay, and yeah, they wrote the screenplay in '87, and they had Stephen Herrick was the director of this, and he later went on to direct that movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg in 2001.
Oh wow!
Weirdly enough, they never brought him back for any of the sequels though. For Bogus Journey, I think he didn't really like the direction they were taking with Bogus Journey, how they would die and go to hell, and he just thought that was a little bit of a I guess of a mean-spirited thing, but we don't have to get into that. But I think that they were trying to figure out what the movie was going to be. Originally, it was going to be they were going to time travel, but they were going to use like a van instead of the phone booth. But
right.
they just ended up. But the way it came off, they were just like, nah, it's too much like Back to the Future. We got to do something different with it.
Yeah, I always thought the phone booth was kind of like an homage to Doctor Who, but I don't know if it was one of the writers or the director at some point came out and said that no, they weren't even aware of the long running British show, Doctor Who, that it was a van, but after Back to the Future's success, they just had to change it to something else. And I don't think it was clear in what I was reading the interview as to where the idea to use the phone booth came from.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that ended up being a coincidence, and because like that's the whole thing with Doctor Who. They used the TARDIS, that phone booth, to time travel and go to different dimensions and stuff. So
yeah.
It's interesting to see like sort of the changes that the script went through as they were developing it. Originally, instead of bringing Napoleon back to San Dimas in 1988, the idea they originally thought they were going to bring back Adolf Hitler, which is pretty wild.
That would have been a different film.
Yeah. I'm glad they went with Napoleon on that, because it's like, look, it's 1988, 89. Like, people are still alive who fought in World War II at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been way too on the nose.
Right. Also, you can kind of like, wasn't the bowling alley or the wherever they went, wasn't it called like the Waterloo, which makes sense. Yes. I can't imagine that there would be some type of German inspired place in Southern California at the time, like the Reichstag or something.
Right. It's like, hey guys, we're going to go to this great water park called Auschwitz. Like, what?
Oh, no.
No. Too soon? All right.
I mean, always.
Yeah, well, yes. But it's like, that would have been a bad taste.
That would have been terrible. It's hard to mine any type of comedy from something along those lines.
Yeah.
They made the better choice with Napoleon. He's further removed from
for sure
from history.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no expert on Napoleon's history, but I'm guessing he probably didn't kill as many people as Hitler. I'm just offhand. I don't know. Someone who's a historian, correct me on that, but if I'm wrong. But
yeah, comment down below.
Yeah, you correct Jack in the comments.
Please do, because that's what the internet is for, if nothing else. Yeah, it was developed by Nelson Entertainment. It was essentially like an independent film, and it was Orion Pictures that distributed it, which I think later got bought out by MGM, and then I don't know who owns it now. Because is MGM still a thing? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but it's funny when they brought back when they made Bill and Ted Face the Music, they had Orion Pictures in the credits of that. So I think.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so I think they brought that back as just like sort of a nod, sort of a homage. Like I don't know if Orion Pictures is still like an actual label or company. It might be owned by something else, but it's also distributed by the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group. Do you guys know anything about the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group? That seems like they've like done like Evil Dead and stuff like that, or it seems like a very.
Well, yeah, but isn't that like I mean the famous isn't that the same company that's like from the famous Dino De Laurentiis, like the
Yeah, I've heard of him, but I forget what he did.
Oh, I mean he did a ton of movies. He's I always think Giada De Laurentiis on the Food Network. That's her grandfather.
Right.
But he directed a ton of movies. But I didn't know if the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group is still related to the director. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was asking you guys. I mean, you guys are probably two of the biggest cinephiles that I know, so I figured you might know a thing or two about that. But
like a personal attack.
No, that's fine. You should have your phone looking stuff up. Look up De Laurentiis Entertainment Group.
Mess with the thing.
We'll take a chance.
It's fine. No. But I remember seeing the interviews that they would do and the behind the scenes stuff. They weren't even sure that this film was even going to make it to the theaters, but supposedly it tested pretty well with audiences. And originally the studio was just like, I don't even know if you could put this on video. This will not make one penny. But it ended up doing pretty well, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly did. It's amazing to think how some of those studio decisions, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. The De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, it was founded by the Italian producer Dino De Laurentiis. They produced Manhunter, Blue Velvet, Evil Dead 2, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, as well as distributing Transformers the movie.
Wow. Wow.
I like the way you pulled that from your
that little independent art house film.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Am I thinking of the one in 86 or the one in 2007?
I'm pretty sure it's the one in 86.
Still a big deal though.
Oh yeah, the one that traumatized basically every
generation
child in my generation that saw it. That like that's the first time that you learned about death through those robots at Optimus Prime.
It's like, hey kids, remember all your favorite Transformers? We're gonna kill every one of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Because we got some.
What is the song? I have like a running mix that
you got the touch.
The touch.
You got the power. And then Dare. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Stan Bush, man.
Good times. Hold on. Is this on De Laurentiis or the Transformers the movie?
It's on De Laurentiis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a pretty good cast in that too. Voice cast for a lot of the Transformers. I know we're off topic now, but
it's fine. But it's like I love how it's like, let's kill all these robots because we got a new toy line to put out with new robots.
Yeah.
That was basically the thought process behind that.
It was.
Anybody or not?
I was trying to bring up the one character because I always forget that Orson Welles voiced a character in the '86 Transformers.
He did Unicron, I think.
Yeah, you're right. He did
the
Unicron.
Living Planet. We could definitely do an episode on that as well.
Yeah, Orson Welles' last film role is a fat joke.
That's right.
That's terrible.
Classy way to go out. Uh, Speaking of cinematic classics, though, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Really great soundtrack on this movie, by the way. We could definitely go through that, once we finish up. But like the music in this was really good, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I really enjoyed it, especially Extreme Play With Me in the mall. That was fantastic. I really like that band.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about Bill and Ted is, with the Wild Stallions, like it's tough to say that you have a musical group that changes the world without actually technically playing any of the music.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's like a Tenacious D's tribute song.
Exactly. This is not the greatest song in the world, but for me, especially, being a guy who's like really into that kind of music and really, being, the concept of like these guys will one day start a band that will like bring about world peace and all these other things and become the basis of society. That like, that was such a cool like concept, especially, and it was definitely a sign of the times right before like grunge hit and everything was about like this world really sucks. Like, your rock music was still kind of fun at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. You're absolutely right. It's right on the cusp of that, where it's about hanging out, playing music, having a good time, living your dreams, before that Seattle sound kind of takes over. And
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a real heart to it. I mean, the characters are very endearing. They're basically the writers basically describe them as like basically like two Labrador retrievers. They're just kind of up for anything. They're nice to everybody. They treat everybody the same way, and it's very charming.
Yeah, they just don't know that they're bad yet.
No.
No.
Yeah.
They got to get there.
Right. Wait a minute. Bill and Ted don't know that they themselves are bad?
Yeah.
Well, that they can't, in the beginning, in terms of music, they can't play yet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
they're not bad people.
Yeah.
They're not. He didn't mean that they're bad people.
Not musically inclined yet.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, but as we see throughout this, like they do a lot of the legwork when it comes to like putting a band together. Besides like actually learning your instruments, it's pretty impressive. And we'll get into that in some of the earlier scenes of it. But I like, they kind of lucked out when they got George Carlin to come on board.
For sure.
When the filming started, they hadn't even fully casted Rufus yet. They were looking for a lot of different actors who could like sort of fit the style. Like, and I'm seeing they had a short list that included Ringo Starr, Roger Daltrey, Sean Connery, and Charlie Sheen. But I guess they wanted to go for someone who was going to be a little bit funnier, someone who's a comedian. So they just figured that George was the right guy, and they were able to get him. So that was one of those just like serendipitous moments. How he ended up being the right guy for the role and the right guy to play off the Alex and Keanu. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And that would have been wild, some of those other people in that role, like Charlie Sheen in that role. I mean, he would have been, he's around their age, right?
Yeah, he would have been like maybe a couple years older than them, or like, I don't know, but like, yeah, like he's not that much like older than they are.
Right.
Yeah, Rufus definitely had, he was older than they were, so it was almost more of like a paternal, like, kind of figure. So it made sense.
Yeah, but Ringo?
Yeah.
But Ringo in that spot?
Ringo probably could have been good. Like he always had some comedic timing to him, even though he wasn't an actual comedian. I almost forgot. Like not only did they spawn, the Saturday morning cartoon, the toys, there was also a live action series for a stretch there that only ran for like 7 episodes on Fox in 1992 before it got canceled.
Really?
Yeah. There were 2 different shows called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, plural. The first was the animated series, and Alex and Keanu and George Carlin actually did the voiceovers to that for the first season of that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But then there was another Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures series that came out in 92 on Fox in the summer of 92, and all completely different cast, and I think there were only 7 episodes that ran, according to Wikipedia. But yeah, it was a thing for a hot minute there. I've never actually seen it. I'm sure that there are a couple episodes of it on YouTube somewhere.
Probably. Bob just pulled it up now. We were looking at Had some popular guest stars. There's Diedrich Bader.
Yeah, that makes sense. He was doing a ton of TV roles back then. I remember he was in Fresh Prince as like the guy who Will's aunt married. The whole like guess who's coming to dinner type of thing.
Oh, I don't remember that.
They're gonna do a
Yeah.
reunion.
Huh. I wonder if I guess it aired one of those shows that they just made a couple episodes of and burned off in the summer.
Yeah, pretty much. They probably aired it next to like reruns of Parker Lewis Can't Lose or something, or whatever else was on the network back then.
I always liked Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Me too, man. Right? Love that show. So, all right. So I mean that's about it for like any other like little facts we can get into on it. But yeah, I know over the last couple of years it's been streaming on a couple different platforms. Like it was on Amazon Prime for a little bit, then it was on YouTube. I think now, as we record this, it's March 24th, 2021. So I think as of now, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey are both on HBO Max. So if you want to, like I said, this isn't a strict watch along or anything. We're just kind of going to go through the movie beat by beat. If you want to follow along, using HBO Max, or if you own the movie, or however you're watching this, feel free to get into it. It's a 30-plus-year-old movie. I don't think I need to say spoilers at this point, but that's what we're going to do. So, anything else you guys have questions on before we get started, or anything else you wanted to say before we get into it?
Did you ever find yourself talking like Bill and Ted after the movie?
Oh, when I was little, absolutely. Like I would say "dude" for everything, and like even to the point where it's like I got in trouble with my parents for saying it too much around the house. My dad was like, "Stop it."
I remember in college, the year I started college at St. Joe's, the year before, the theater group that I was in had done Much Ado About Nothing, which Keanu Reeves is in the movie version of.
Yes, he is.
And I guess they had like an inside joke from that year that carried over to my freshman year. So all the kids like a year older would like constantly say to each other, "The most excellent Count Claudio," and then they'd all laugh.
Oh wow.
Oh, sorry. They cut that.
It says explicit on this thing. So.
No, that's perfect.
But yeah, they would just say "the most excellent Count Claudio," and then they'd all laugh.
Of course, very original, subversive joke. Wonder how they thought of that one. Sure, it must have taken seconds. Yeah, I don't know. Not that I'm some great comedian anyway, but what are you gonna do? But anyways, yeah. So we're just gonna get into the movie now. I've got notes here. I know these guys have taken notes as well that we've gone and see it. So we're just gonna break it down beat by beat and just kind of offer our thoughts on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So here we go. So we open with the Orion Pictures logo and the Nelson Entertainment. I don't think Nelson Entertainment is a thing anymore. But we see this like very futuristic setting, and we hear the song "Breakaway" by a band called Big Pig. I think they were like an Australian like pop rock group, clearly like a one-hit wonder type of thing. But you hear the song "Breakaway," really catchy, 80s pop tune, very fitting for that futuristic opening. And then we see sort of the time machine before it turns into a phone booth. And I thought it looked pretty cool. It had this like crystalline design, and I was always wondering, like, man, can this thing like assume any form they want it to? Like, they could have it like just, I mean, like, why not lean into that a bit? Why not have it shapeshift a bit? But they really, obviously kept the booth motif going throughout it.
Right. That's one of the things that always made me call BS a little bit on them saying it wasn't influenced by Doctor Who, because it's literally the same thing. Like, the TARDIS in Doctor Who can change into anything in order to blend into surroundings, but the Doctor's one is broken and it's stuck as a 1960s blue phone booth.
Right.
So I always thought, like, man, for saying it wasn't at all influenced by it, there's a lot of similarities.
Right. You're going to piss off a lot of Whovians with this thing, man. Like come on, guys. But yeah, I had a feeling it was, and I've never seen anything with Doctor Who, so I don't know anything about it. But I mean, I've heard a lot about it, so that all makes sense. but yeah, so once they get through, like they play the whole song, as they sort of roll the opening credits. Then they cut to Rufus, just kind of against this black background, just kind of explaining what everything's going on here, just sort of like narrating. He's breaking the fourth wall. He's talking to the camera. I really liked the bit where he was explaining what the future was. San Dimas, California, the year 2688. And I love how bowling, mini golf, and water slides are a big deal. As a kid, I'm like, I love all those things. I'm in.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
Bowling average up, mini golf down.
I like those pastimes were very important. I think it was clear that what the type of demographic they were going for.
Sure.
And showing a peaceful future. But
yeah.
I thought it was very smart to open on the future, rather than Bill and Ted, and then get into, because I could certainly see a different version of this movie where they introduce the main characters first.
And then all of a sudden a time machine shows up.
Right. But they were very smart to kind of open with the future and like set the groundwork, because I think it catches you off guard a little bit. Like what exactly is this? It looks like it looks like the future from 1950s movies.
Sure.
Like that future that never happened here, when cars had big fins, and it almost looked like that era.
Right.
I to do that.
Hey, in 700 years, give it time. You never know.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening to this 700 years from now, that might be the way it is. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
and bring us back. It's cold here.
Right? Yeah. You guys have time machines. Come on. Nice. But yeah, like I'm watching this as a kid. I'm like, even as an adult, I'm like, I like bowling, mini golf, and water slides. Like anyone who doesn't like that, I don't want to hang out with that person. Like who doesn't like bowling, mini golf, and water slides? Those are all fun things. I love how he was like, the air is clean, the water is clean, even the dirt is clean.
Yeah.
But I mean, even he's explaining at this point that these are the two great ones, so I've got to go back and help them. Don't worry, this will all make sense. I love how that line is like, the exact line is, "Don't worry, it'll all make sense. I'm a professional." And to this day, I can't really say a professional what. Like what was Rufus's job really? Like I have no idea like what Rufus really was. He was just a guy from the future.
Yeah, he had to train Bill and Ted to get them on the right path to save the world through music.
Yeah. He was the doctor.
He was the doctor. Wait a minute.
He was the doctor. Hey, call back.
He didn't go back in the future to wait a minute. I'm not doing that one either.
My whole plan to explain how Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is just a really good episode of Doctor Who.
Probably the best episode of Doctor Who. Like, I mean, think about it. Isn't that his whole deal? He can look like different people. That's why they explain the recasts every couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never watched Doctor Who. David Tennant's my doctor. I've never seen a single.
Oh yeah. Oh no, not at all.
Watch every episode. What are you talking about?
I love Doctor Who.
You only dressed up your daughter as a TARDIS when she was a baby. I know you love Doctor Who. I was there.
True.
She got sick when he was spinning her around, though, when she was jumping through.
Yeah, she didn't like that when I tried to pretend she was a time machine.
Yeah.
I made a snow Dalek once.
Hey,
Doctor Who fans will understand what that is.
Yeah,
but
right
instead of a snowman, I made a big like 4-foot snow Dalek one snowstorm.
Those are like the evil robots that try and zap him or whatever.
Correct.
They all exterminate all the time.
Correct.
Gotcha. I'm pissing off so many Doctor Who fans right now. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I mean, in the old 60s episodes, it's basically like a trash can with another trash can on top and a plunger for an arm. and they're terrifying.
It's amazing. I love it. But yeah, so we cut to Bill and Ted's garage, which I'm assuming that's at Bill's house. And as I mentioned earlier, like this garage setup they have, it's very well decorated with wall coverings, posters. They have a fully stocked drum kit with a personalized bass drum head, like keyboards, amps, maybe a PA system and mics as well. They've put a lot of work into getting this band together, but it's only the two of them so far. So it's like these guys clearly have a vision about where they want the band to go, and they have the name and everything. it was never really explained why they chose Wild Stallions as the band name, but like I said, I mean, and for being in the band, there's a lot that goes into it besides just learning the music. There's the branding and how you present yourself and everything. And these guys are way ahead of the curve on that deal. Despite not really being able to play guitar at this point in time, we know that they get better. And also, like, I don't think either of them sing at this point, but I mean, they have a lot. They've put in a lot of work. Clearly, I think that's not to be understated here.
Yeah, but where do they get the money for the equipment? Does Bill family have money?
Yeah, it's clear that like somebody in props is like, all right, we got all of this stuff. Nobody's going to really pay that close attention that these two high school students would have this phenomenal equipment.
Yeah, that's a good question, Bob, because I mean, yeah, like think about it, like they're teenagers. I'm assuming they're seniors in high school by this point, but like they're teenagers. They don't have jobs as far as I know. Like they don't have like weekend jobs or anything. Like how? That's a good question. Like how they're paying for this? Because clearly, I mean, Ted's dad is not very supportive, as we later find out. But maybe Bill's dad has some money. I mean, there's a whole thing
Bill's
about
dad clearly has some money because you've seen Bill's stepmom.
Yes. Yeah, there's
an allowance or something like here go in the other room. Oh, we'll get to that later. That's fine.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Bill and Ted's family situations are definitely a point of discussion in and of itself because we don't meet either of their moms. We're not sure where their moms are in the picture, but obviously Bill's dad is married to a very young woman who was like a senior. Missy was a senior in high school when they were freshmen, as they communicated, and as we learned in the third movie, I think she babysat them at one point. So
yeah,
I feel like there's a much darker story. There's a much darker story here as to how Mr. Preston and Missy ended up together. But maybe that was like sort of a way to overcompensate with the divorce. I don't know what happened, but clearly, but
you had to get it.
I'm guessing that's where the money is coming from as far as this whole setup.
Yeah, I mean, this was like, it was 89, Southern California, right?
Right?
I'm sure Bill's dad's big into tech now. Maybe, at Google or Twitter.
Yeah, he's like a retired like Silicon Valley, mogul or something.
Yeah, that's what I think. He's on his third Missy by now.
Oh yeah, no, he was starting to let his freak flag fly. He could tell this guy went to Woodstock 20 years earlier and just still is coming down off of it. But the full names, the way they introduce their names are interesting. Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan, which none of those make any sense, but they're just so confident that you just go with it. They're like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's pretty inspired. Like the Bill S. Preston, Esquire. It does sound like it's not William S. Preston, Esquire.
No.
Bill S. Preston, Esquire. There's, he's taken this title, attached some type of importance to his name. He has no interest in the law or being a lawyer, it seems. I don't recall.
Not that we know of.
What his dad did, if his dad was a lawyer in any capacity. But
could be.
Ted
they never said.
Logan.
Yeah, because Theodore would be his real name and Ted would be the one in quotes. They did a little flip of that, which, I mean,
right. Whoever came up with that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of those things, man. It's like, some guys just have that level of confidence where they could say stuff and like it'll mean something to them. You'll have no idea what it is, but like you'll just go with it. I mean, listen to any David Lee Roth interview. That guy, I mean, he operates on a different level. Like he's like, life ain't nothing but a kick in the pants, so let's dance. And you're like, yeah, right on, Dave. Like, wait, what is this guy talking about? Who cares? It's Dave. He's just so awesome. Like some guys just have that level of swagger.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it sounds good. It sounds like it's something, Yeah, it works really well.
Yeah.
Now I didn't. So is
go
Ted's
ahead,
name? Is Ted's name just Ted Logan? Because isn't Ted short for Theodore?
Yeah, I think it's Theodore Ted. It would be Theodore Logan.
But
like you would say,
but he's calling himself Ted Logan.
Well, it's Theodore Logan. But usually when you say someone's nickname, you put it in the middle. Theodore
right.
Ted Logan. but he puts it out in the front
you would be Robert Bobby Gaspero.
Right. That would be like me referring to myself as Jimmy James Gaspero.
Right.
Because I've never heard anybody call their first name twice. It's just like a nickname or something in the middle.
Right. That's why it's unique, but it works.
That's why it's odd. Jokes are so much funnier when you have to explain it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Absolutely. Their wardrobe, I noticed, remains the same almost throughout the movies, suggesting that maybe this all happened in the course of 1 to 2 days and they've never slept throughout any of it, which is interesting.
I did not notice that.
I noticed, like, as they're jamming out, they pan to the outside of the garage door. There's a quiet please sign on the garage, which is something I hadn't noticed before. So it's like, wonder if that was put there on purpose. But I know that they were filming this in like '87. They were supposed to put it out in 1988, but it ended up being released in '89. So the movie, like, not to nitpick, but it technically places in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think when you're filming a time travel movie, you really need to say that out up front. But as they're playing so loud that they blow a fuse that causes the amps to produce smoke. Now, I mean, I can say for all the years that I've been playing in bands, I can say that has never once happened to me.
Yeah. Does the volume affect the energy output?
Well,
I mean,
if you're going to be technical.
I mean, yeah, like
I'm technical.
Okay.
We're on a podcast. Be technical.
Yeah.
Amp draw. All right.
Well, the wiring size would be too low for it to smoke, or a resistor or capacitor inside would have to catch fire. If the solder joint was loose, it could cause a spark inside and burn up inside. Yeah. But usually if a high amp draw would trip the breaker before it would.
All right. We're back on the podcast. No. This movie makes no sense with Jack, Jimmy, and our technical expert, Amp Draw.
Amp Draw.
I can't leave it.
Wait, where are you going?
You said Robert Bob.
And Bob Robert. You got it wrong.
I second this.
All right. Well, one more time. And we're back on This Movie Makes No Sense with your hosts, Jack, Jimmy, and Bob Robert, Amp Draw Gaspero.
Oh my God!
Bob's now convulsing on the floor.
Amp Draw.
We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors.
That's a great nickname, Amp Draw.
I myself with you, Jack.
That's amazing.
I turned Jimmy for Derek.
No,
Bob, I'm so glad you could join us on this podcast as well. Holy shit!
This is my last one, I promise.
No, it's not.
I'm crying. I'm literally crying.
Well, sorry about that.
This makes a perfect segue, which I was going to ask if this was like a possible weed joke, but like they never suggested that Bill and Ted are two stoners, and they've said in interviews that they're not supposed to be stoners, but like the fact that it like exploded and caused this big puff of smoke, which again never happened to me once, but I've been in rooms where it's like you've played loud enough where things would short out, but never like actually burst into flame or smoke. But yeah, again, funny effect, but it's funny how they'll use these sight gags as way as like, oh, they're not very good. Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what that is. So
why did that inspire you to be a musician?
I mean, this scene specifically didn't really inspire me, but it's just, I just liked them and kind of what they were all about. And I mean, I was still really young when this came out, so this didn't like directly make me say I want to learn how to play guitar, but like when I was old enough to start getting into it, I would go back and watch this, and I'm thinking like, man, this must have like really just been like imprinted on my DNA as a kid, because it's like I still kind of feel that way, now that at the time now that I was a teenager and starting to do stuff. So it's just these two guys, I just loved what they were all about. I loved their personalities and
right on.
Yeah. There was definitely a real heart to it, but as they're going through, they have the whole Eddie Van Halen back and forth, and it's such like a who's on first type of moment where it's like, that's why we need Eddie Van Halen. Well, that's why we need a video, and so I thought that was kind of funny.
I think he was there for the movie that he would have been in their band.
Yeah, I know. Like Eddie did like an interview back then when like he first saw it. He's like, I would have joined them if they asked me to. So he was definitely. He was definitely in on the joke.
Nice.
But it's funny, like, I was thinking about this, like, wait a minute, that would mean they would have 3 guitar players, but they still don't have a bass player or drummer, so that
Yeah.
would be kind of funny. But
I love their positivity, but like I always thought of that scene like they're talking about all the things they need to do other
mhm.
than be musicians.
Yes,
Which I mean, they get to that point, but
yeah, but I mean, honestly, the way they talk about it, where it's like, that's why we need a good video, that's why we need someone like Eddie Van Halen. I'm like, man, if that isn't the perfect metaphor for what it's like to be in a band and try to be in the music business, it's like, man, we need to play some gigs, but we don't have any fans, but we need to make a record, but we don't have any money to put toward a record. It's like all these things. It's just, it's like, trust me, I love music, but music does not love you back. That's just how it goes. So it's, I've been through you know, that whole thing where it's like you're trying to get booked, where it's like, well, how much is your draw? I'm like, well, currently no one, because we haven't played a show yet. Like, just give us a chance. It's a whole thing. But I mean, it is what it is. It's like anything else you're trying to break into. It's same with being an actor, I imagine. But apparently this is all happening in the morning, like right before school, because they take a look, at their clock, like, oh crap, we're late for school. And I'm like, man, these guys are committed. Like, clearly they're like all about like practicing like early in the morning, which is not what most musicians do. But I'm guessing maybe like did Ted sleep over Bill's house? But they cut to going into their into the classroom, and we see their teacher, Mr. Ryan, who's Bernie Casey, who I mean I loved him in Revenge of the Nerds. He was UN Jefferson. He was also in that movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka.
Oh yeah.
That one,
Yeah, I'm gonna get you, sucker. Oh, I know Revenge of the Nerds, but yeah, I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Yeah, I forget like what other like big movies he's done, but that's mainly what I remember him. In addition to this movie, they go through the whole thing about Serena's like, oh, who's Joan of Arc? Noah's wife? Foreshadowing. And so
there are a lot of really good, like simple jokes like that
yeah.
are very quick and are kind of silly, but but pretty funny, like in enjoyable. Like I think their portrayal of it, that like innocence almost, like not necessarily ignorance, but that innocence that they approach to it is
absolutely
comical.
Absolutely, and so Mr. Ryan explains to them after class that it's like, look, your final history report is tomorrow. Unless you get an A plus, then they not only are going to fail history, but apparently flunk out of school, as we later find out. And I guess, are they already on academic probation? I'm not sure how that works at that school, but like clearly, like they're trying and struggling, but like they're not really like they're not stupid. Like they'll say some like really like interesting like very articulate lines. Like they're not dumb guys. They're just not very bright, I guess, or just academically inclined. It's just I'm not sure how this happens, but honestly, I probably blame part of it on their home life, on their parenting. Let's be honest, because they both clearly have some dysfunction going on at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the impression from probably other people on the outside is that they're stupid, but they're not. They're clearly not. I just think they have other interests, and I don't think anybody's ever really challenged them in a way to to learn. And also, a lot of this is just to to set up and serve the plot of this whole thing with the history project. But I think it makes sense to just try and get into the situation.
Of course, yeah, that's where they need to be. That sets up the main problem that they need to overcome. So it works out. But yeah, so as they're like going outside and walking to the car, they're trying to figure out, okay, like what do we need to do for this project, which is like, I mean, it's due tomorrow. Like, how do you guys not know about this by now? But because the plot says so. As they're walking towards the parking lot, they were introduced to Missy, Bill's stepmom, who apparently was a senior in high school as they were freshmen. So this would probably make her like at most 22 at the oldest. I love how Ted like gives that line. He's like, remember when I once asked her to the prom? But Missy really takes like her role as stepmom very seriously. Like she insists that she gets mad if Bill doesn't call her mom, which is again a weird flex, but like yeah, but she's into it. But she's like really nice. You know, it's
Yeah,
just
she's
that
really
that
nice. But it is a bit of a weird flex that she insists on Bill calling her mom.
But I mean, again, clearly she takes her role as a stepmother really seriously.
Yeah, they would pick them up, take them where they got to go. No.
Yeah, and she's like, all right, well, I'm not taking you till you've done your chores, and like she's trying to be like a good mom, so she just, you know, it's just the age difference is just that's what makes it comical. But
Mm-hmm.
but so she gives them a ride home, and they stop by Ted's house, and Ted is trying to sneak past his dad. I'm guessing, you know, maybe because he spent the night at Bill's house last night, but he wasn't supposed to. I mean, which makes sense. It's you know, it's a school night. But you know, his dad is the captain of the San Dimas police. So Captain Logan immediately suspects Ted of stealing his keys. I guess like his keys to you know to his work. So clearly, like there's a lot of tension there already. And I wrote this down. Like there's a lot to unpack between like the relationship between Ted and his dad. Ted's dad seems like overly strict, but while not being very present. You know, it's like he's a cop, but you know he may be ex-military since he has connections to Colonel Oates in the military school. And like I wrote down this one thing, this one question where it's like, is military school really really an appropriate response to Ted's academic shortcomings? I mean, it's not a bad solution, especially like if he's going down a bad path. But it's like maybe he just needs some tutoring or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a bit extreme, but I feel like there was like a run of movies in the mid to late '80s where it's like, oh, you're in trouble now. You're going to have to go to military school
Or boarding school.
or boarding school, and you're going to you're going to hate it. But I found that the scene between Bill's dad and Bill, very well done. It surprisingly brings a lot of tension and a lot of stakes to to the plot. Not only they want to keep Wild Stallions and have the future be great, but the relationship between Bill and his dad in that one scene is it's pretty well done. Like better I thought than watching the movie more recently. The scene was better than I thought it really had any right to be. They could have it could have been anything in that scene, but it was a pretty confrontational moment between Bill and his dad. I thought it deepened the movie.
Yeah, it's actually Ted and his dad, but I know what you mean.
Oh, yeah, Ted's dad.
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean, but like you said it, like he doesn't play it like over the top, like the over the top strict dad. Like you buy him in that role. It doesn't seem like cartoonish in that moment because like you could see Ted is really like afraid of his dad, and he's like Oates Military Academy, sir. Like I said, it was a good scene. So and like you said, Jim, it adds the stakes to the movie. Like they don't want to. Not only do they want to graduate, but they don't want to be separated as well, because the military school is in Alaska. So we cut back to the scene in the future where we see like the three they call them the three most important people. Like they're like the three great leaders who are sending Rufus back, and they are played by Clarence Clemens of the E Street Band, Martha Davis of she was in a band called the Motels. They had a really big song called Only the Lonely, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And Fee Waybill, who I think was he was the guitar player for that band, The Tubes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So it's like it was kind of cool that they got like three actual musicians to play those roles. I mean, Clarence.
What was the two? Go ahead.
Well, what was their big hit?
Yeah.
She's a Beauty. And
She's a Beauty, right? Okay.
She's a beauty, one in a million girl.
One in a million girl. One in a million girl.
Yeah, and it's like obviously that sounded good because they had the guys from Toto singing backup. Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the guy from the Tubes. That's funny.
Yeah. So they send Rufus back, but it's funny, like, and like we'll talk about this a lot throughout it, but it's like the way time travel works in the movie is very confusing. But as long as you don't think about it too hard, it's a lot of fun. But it's like their separation is imminent. Now is the time where you need to go back, and I'm like, you guys have a time machine. You can do this literally any time. But why are you in a rush? And it's like then you also get into that whole argument about like, are they in a time loop? Like how do they know that this will screw up the timeline? But you go with it. So anyways, back in Bill's bedroom at Bill's house, Bill and Ted are they're studying. Um, I like all the Disney references. They like talk about the Hall of Presidents, and which I think they have that in Disneyland, but they talk about like going to Disney World as well. So it's like, man, Bill and Ted are real Disney files. It's like it's a shame Disney never like purchased the franchise. They could have done a lot with it, but regardless.
Well, Disney owns everything else, so.
Pretty much. Weird segue though. Like for years at Universal Studios here in Florida, they had the Bill and Ted show for Halloween Horror Nights for many, many years.
Really?
They did.
What did they do for Halloween Horror and Bill and Ted?
Well, I mean, I think it was like a stage show that they had. I was never into like Halloween Horror Nights, so I never really went into it. I just the haunted houses. I'm not a big haunted house guy, but
Okay.
like from what I heard, they did like the stage show and they would talk about and they would have like movie characters of the day come in and like make cameos and it's just sort of they'd be like your MCs throughout whatever this stage show was. I'm sure it's got to be on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure someone has like some footage of it.
Probably. It was the whole premise was that Rufus failed and it was just them acting out the year 2020.
Ha! The zing.
Heyo.
They predicted it. But yeah, so like I love the Hall of Presidents reference. It's like, what did George Washington say? Welcome to the Hall of Presidents. I also love the reference to Moby Dick too. Had wooden teeth chase Moby Dick. That's Captain Ahab, dude. So clearly they're well read, but what are you gonna do? So Missy walks in and they are both just completely gobsmacked and like looking down her shirt and they're like, oh man, she's so hot. But like I said before, she seems to like be taking her role as a stepmom very seriously. She's bringing them snacks. Like she's so nice. Like it almost takes away from the joke about her being like super hot, but I mean it works.
Right. I always thought about it like the stuff that she does and what she says is like she's playing at stepmom.
Yeah.
She's not like really being the stepmom and like, because she's so close in age, it's like she's doing things that
she thinks she has to do.
A stepmom would do with like almost like little kids. It's almost like she overheard somebody talking about, what it's like being a stepmom with younger kids and she's just, play acting it. But I mean, I think which
to her credit, Bill and Ted are very immature. So
right, exactly.
So it's not that far off. I mean, she's like a young 20-something girl. She's probably having baby fever. Probably, probably just has those maternal instincts kicking in, and it works out. But we see Bill's dad walking in, and this guy looks like Michael Gross from Family Ties, Stephen Keaton. He looks like a cross between him, like Howard Hesseman, and Martin Mull with like a Mr.
Mull vibes.
Yeah, with like a Mr. Rogers sweater. So it's like they get like off-brand Martin Mull comes in and he starts talking to them. And of course he ignores them as soon as Missy suggests that that she's in the mood. So it's like as soon as she like bats her eyes at him, he's just like, yeah, whatever. Can you guys get out of here?
Yeah, clearly we know what Mr. Preston has on his mind.
Yeah, so he and Missy they're ready to go to town at this point. So Mr. Preston cannot wait to get them both out of the bedroom so he can bang Missy right there in his son's bedroom.
It's not right.
No, I mean, like, can't you at least wait until they get out of the house, and like go to your room? Like that's, man, like that's just a level of self-control that is just not present at this point.
No.
Maybe he took medicine and he only had a certain amount of time, you know what I mean?
Did they have medicine for that back then?
Yeah, this was like pre-Viagra, so.
I think so. Hey, well,
let's be honest, not that he would need it around Missy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm down.
But Bob was just looking up the actor that played Mr. Preston, J. Patrick McNamara. It's funny you mention Howard Hesseman.
Yeah,
Because,
I'm thinking like head of the class.
yeah,
That.
J. Patrick McNamara was in 2 episodes of Head of the Class.
Well, there you go. Wow. That's awesome.
That's kind of odd.
Sure, why not?
And
he was Howard Hesseman's stunt double.
yeah, I'm wondering who did he in 2 episodes in season 2 and season 3, Mr. Foster, just Howard Hesseman stand-in.
Right, they just replaced him with Howard until they just wanted to see how long people would notice.
Yeah,
It's a decoy.
That was the whole episode.
Yeah, that's it.
Howard's like, I'm not showing up to set today. Have J. Patrick McNamara do it. Go.
Action. You can't do that from there.
So they cut to the Circle K, and I mean, look, I guess this, keep in mind this is pre-internet, and this is probably after hours. Like the library is probably closed, so they're just going to the Circle K. They're hanging out in the parking lot I guess they're doing whatever they can and just trying to ask anyone they can. I guess their options are limited at this point. They only have one night to do this thing, which, hey, that's a lesson in procrastination, kids. Like, come on, don't wait till the last minute. But they're trying to make the best out of the situation. When finally the booth shows up, and I noticed this right away. Like, it lands a little bit crooked. I'm guessing they had issues with like the crane they were using to lower it down, but like they just kept it in the shot. That was always something I noticed. I thought it was funny. But when
Really?
yeah, but when Rufus and the Booth appear in this public parking lot, no one else is around or approaches them at any point. So, again, like, you would think they'd have security cameras or something, even in 1988, but like no one shows up, no one gathers around. Like, what the hell is going on? So, they're completely undisturbed. Then
No, it's just unassuming phone booth in the middle of a park.
a lot of things happen at the Circle K. So Rufus shows up. He's trying to introduce who he is, and he explains that he knows them and he's here to help them. Meanwhile, a second booth appears, and it's future Bill and Ted from later in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So they show up. They see these future versions of themselves that are only like a few hours older than they are. Again, I'm not sure if they ever explained the 69 joke. The what number are we thinking of? The 69. I don't know if that was supposed to be sexual or if it had like some other meaning, to it. But it just seemed like
one meaning.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but clearly they were Chris and Ed were just trying to pop themselves with with that line.
Yeah, they cut that out of the TV version.
Exactly.
Which I thought was odd, but I've watched it on TV before, and they cut it out.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's funny when they clearly dub Keanu's voice over, and it's clearly not Keanu, but someone trying to do an impression of him. Anytime you'd have these network TV or cable versions of it, but they couldn't say certain things. That was always funny to me.
Yeah, there's a few of my favorites from movies on TV. In Naked Gun, where Leslie Nielsen is, I think, in the library or the study, and basically he's under the ladder where Priscilla Presley is. That's who's in that, right?
Yeah.
Priscilla Presley's at the top of the ladder, and he's looking up almost so that he could be looking up her skirt. And I think in the movie he says, "Nice beaver." And she responds with, "Thank you, I just had it stuffed." And she hands him a stuffed beaver. But in the TV version, it's dubbed to be "Nice one."
Nice.
And you can't, one and beaver, they're different mouth sounds. That's a very tough one.
It's like he's clearly not saying that.
The first time I saw Ghostbusters on TV, where Venkman comes out and he says, "We came, we saw, we kicked its ass." And I once saw a version on TBS, I think it was, that was dubbed. He comes out and the doors fly open and the one guy from the hotel comes running over. And he's dubbed to say, "What a pure knock of fun that was."
What? How do you get that out of who he gets?
I don't know. I don't know, man.
I can only imagine what they did for snakes on a plane. It's like these Monday to Friday snakes on or something that makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, probably. But yeah, but that was what a great scene though. I mean, the future scene, the reminding him to wind the watch, the what number am I thinking of? Like
it's good
it all
continuity.
really works. It really works well.
Like, it's good continuity, and they do a good job of calling back to that later. But
Yeah.
I love the line that like Bill says to Ted. It's like, you and I have witnessed many things, but nothing as bodacious as what just happened. And like the way he delivers it is so earnest. And Alex Winter himself loves that line. He's like, this movie is deceptively well written. Like you think you're getting this dumb buddy comedy, but like they gave us these really ornate lines to say.
Yeah. I think it's really smart. I mean, the fact that we see it from their perspective and see like the other Bill and Ted's, and then we see it from when they go through it, that it's very well done in that regard. Like, as much as some of the time travel elements like don't make sense, like why does Rufus have to go back at all? If Rufus didn't go back before and everything was fine and this is the future, why does Rufus have to go back now? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's like the Terminator time loop, It's like if Kyle Reese doesn't go back, is John Connor ever born? That whole thing. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Like this future happened and John Connor saved everybody, but then Kyle Reese goes back and is John Connor's dad, and what? How does that make any sense? But
but you go with it.
You go with it. Yeah, so Arnold can say a bunch of cool lines.
Exactly. And, just give us enough to work with. The circuits of time, I thought, were some pretty impressive, like early CGI, especially for the time and especially for like the budget they had to work with. It wasn't bad. As a special effect.
It's not bad. I like the idea of the big phone book, to dial up the different time as to how the machine worked. There's just a bunch of things that I think the mechanics of it are kind of neat.
Yeah. So the first place they go to is Austria in 1805, and they have a nice use of like stock footage. I don't know what movie or film this was from. It was some old like war film or like movie from probably the 50s or 60s that they used that was colorized. But it was a good use of stock footage, and then they did shoot around that to see the footage of Napoleon to get the close-ups, and somehow Napoleon gets caught in the booth's gravitational pull and shockingly is not killed instantly. he manages to follow them back to San Dimas in 1988. So they land back at Ted's house, and when they get back, Rufus explains what they need to do, that somehow the clock in San Dimas is always running, and that he won't be joining them for some reason. Because I guess they didn't have enough money for Carlin to stay throughout the whole film.
And Carlin was there for one day.
Exactly.
He got all the seeds in one day, and that was it. Yeah. He had a hard out at 4:30.
Right. All right, guys. Is that a wrap on George? George said he wanted to go to the bar across the street.
Right. But in terms of the time's always running in San Dimas, like that's another like really clever type of thing. Like you can't do all this and then go back to the moment that you had just left. That the clock's always running in the present. So whatever time you spend trying to get this all done. I just thought that was like another neat little element that
it's a lot like Avengers Endgame.
You don't hear about it a lot in time travel stuff. I thought it was clever.
It's like, do they have Avengers Endgame rules? Is that how it operates? Where it's like, no, you can't go back into the past because that is now your present. So Rufus goes back. He leaves and then sends another booth right after them so they could use it. Which is a great idea. Leave it unsupervised for these two kids to have a time machine. What could go wrong? So Bill and Ted noticed that Napoleon ended up landing in a tree in their front yard, and Napoleon is completely unconscious. He falls on the ground, and so they immediately recognize him. They take him inside Ted's house and leave him with Ted's little brother, Deacon, rather than like try to wake him up or take him with them. And then of course hijinks ensue. And then so later on, Captain Logan sees Ted coming out of the house and just immediately starts berating him once again, saying that he's not allowed to leave the house until the following morning. Now, like, I wrote this down, like, I'm not sure what set off Ted's dad again. Maybe the fact that he saw Ted hanging out with Bill. when I guess I don't know if Ted's dad knows that he has a big like report that he needs to do, but like he's not even giving Ted a chance to do his report, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it just escalates way too quickly. Like every time he sees him, just seeing him pisses him off.
Yeah, it's like you're hanging out with the Preston kid again. Like what the hell, man? So when Bill goes out of the house, he Captain Logan just starts laying into Ted and just saying all this stuff. He's like, you're wasting your time on this band that's never going to happen. You're not to leave here until tomorrow morning. You better pack your bags because your plane leaves tomorrow first thing. So yeah, he's reading Ted the Riot Act. When Bill's outside, he gets an idea. Apparently, the phone booth is also still like a functioning telephone because Bill calls the house as Deputy Van Halen, and and has this whole thing and provides a whole distraction, and that allows Ted to sneak out.
Right. It also led to about 1 million different rock themed aliases on 15 seasons of Supernatural.
Oh, did it? Yeah, that's amazing.
They're always like we're FBI, Agent Rose and Agent Slash.
Right. Or like Agent Shaw and DeYoung, I guess. But yeah, it's like I love how like the phone, like you mentioned, the phone book is a really nice touch, and like I love how the phone booth is still an actual working phone booth in whatever time they happen to be. Somehow they managed to get out, and Ted's dad just barely notices. He sees like something's going on in his lawn, and he's like, I don't know what I just saw, but I'm just gonna let it go. Like he's not quite sure what happened there. Funny like little gag of them just getting out just at the nick of time. So the first place they go to is New Mexico in 1879. And again, they open real strong with the outhouse gag. Solid laugh when you're 12 and watching this,
Yep, that was definitely for the 12 to 13-year-old demographic.
That's absolutely who that was for. But I like when they land and they're just so pleasant. Like, hey, how's it going, Old West dude? And I like the Frontierland reference. Again, another Disney callback. I love it. This place looks just like Frontierland.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love how nobody in this Old West town seemed to be fazed at all about the booth's arrival or their appearance. It's just no one really seems scared. It's like, oh, howdy, how you doing? Like,
I don't think they could afford the extras.
No. Yeah, well, I mean, the extras there, but I mean, just in the context of the movie, the fact that like they go into the Old West and they see these two kids who were like wearing these weird futuristic clothing from a object that fell from the sky, and just the townspeople seem to be cool with it.
Yeah. It's also great as Bill and Ted go to all these places, they don't seem fazed by the actual real danger they could be in.
No, not at all. Like I said, they're like basically like they have that like puppy factor. They're just kind of down for everything. They treat everyone the same way, and they're like, okay, all right, we're having a good time.
Right. And it makes sense that they're making all these like Frontierland, Hall of Presidents type of references because they are treating every place they go as more or less as a theme park.
Pretty much. I mean, if only we could all live our lives like that. I'm jealous of Bill did it that way. Well, I mean, I do, but I don't know about anyone else. So they walk into the saloon and they're very excited to order 2 beers. And I wrote down like besides this and like the cigar smoking, it's really the only time like we see Bill and Ted like indulging in such things. Like again, they're not like portrayed as being like partiers or like stoners or anything like that. It's like the closest they get to I mean, for the most part, they're fairly wholesome characters as far as like the substance use goes. So that's like the closest we get to like being a little edgy, But they're psyched about it. But then we see Billy the Kid showing up, and like to your point, Jim, earlier, it's like I love how they're completely unfazed and unintimidated by Billy the Kid. I like the Mr. the Kid line. It's adorable. So they ended up joining Billy's poker game, and Billy ends up being accused of using them to cheat, and that just erupts in a massive brawl. Just the whole thing escalates very, very quickly. And they just kind of sit through most of it, just kind of checking everything out until they get confronted by a couple guys. And look, we don't want to fight. We're totally weak, but they end up getting thrown headfirst through a wall and about to just get their asses kicked when Billy joins them. And they literally give a wedgie to one guy as he shoots himself in the foot. Like these are the dumbest cowboys of all time. But the 3 of them, they escape, and Billy agrees to go with them. And so they the next place they stop is Athens, Greece, in the year 410 BC.
Mm-hmm. So great.
Yes. Yeah, the whole Socrates bit is perfect. And honestly, like the quote they use before they're just like going through their textbook and looking through like, okay, who are we looking for? Socrates. Oh, it's under Socrates. Um, Funny. Makes me laugh every time. But like the quote they use is actually pretty good. Like the only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing. I'm like, wow, that's actually very profound.
Right. And it describes Bill and Ted.
Yeah. And it's just like a cool way of like, okay, stay humble. Just like don't assume you know everything. And I wrote down like once again, no one in Athens seems to be bothered by these two strange guys in futuristic clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But they just kind of go up and they're just like, hey, how's it going? And honestly, I don't know who the actor was who played Socrates, but like this guy steals the show for me. Like he's so expressive and just he's very, very funny, very comical.
Tony Steedman.
Yeah. There's there's a lot of good character actors that
There really are. Yeah.
through the 80s and 90s did a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, like Al Leong, he was like the perfect. He was like the henchman in like every single action movie you've ever seen.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It was like a meme going around. Nobody could hench like this man. It's like an Al Leong appreciation meme out there. But I love the Kansas reference in there. All we are is dust in the wind. And it's funny because Socrates never speaks English, but I'm wondering, like, does he understand what these guys are saying? It almost seems like he understands English, which, okay, sure.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I don't know. I have that question as well, but
I like the Days of Our Lives reference in there as well.
Yeah. Like Sands of the Hourglass.
These are the
days of our lives. Oh, you say it much better than me. Sorry.
It was timely, man. That was a good reference. So they go to medieval England. It's in the 15th century. The year is unspecified. It's probably around like in the mid 1420s. So I love that they even comment in the movie where it's like, Billy, you are adapting to the oddity of time travel with the greatest of ease. Because like Billy is pretty unflappable as well. Like he's into it. He's like, all right, yeah, we're going time traveling. That's cool.
Oh yeah, Billy the Kid is down. He is just like, yeah.
Yeah, he's part of the crew.
He's ready. Mm-hmm. He is ready for the fun.
I love it. And then just even the look on Socrates' face, he's terrified. He's like backed into a corner. He just has that shocked look, very over the top, but like he plays it big, but it's very funny.
Yeah, it's almost like mime acting. It's because he doesn't really say anything, but
yeah,
it's all very over the top and
it
works.
Oh yeah, I wrote down like I kind of wish that we could have had like a Billy the Kid / Socrates spin-off movie, because like these two guys have like such great chemistry in it. It's like I almost want to see like what two adventures they could get into.
Yeah, it was on 6 episodes on Fox in 1992.
Right, that's what they should have done for the series. If Netflix was around back then, that could have been a show.
That could have been it.
But this time, like when they get to England, the local townspeople, the peasants, they seem to be pretty appropriately freaked out by the arrival of time travelers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's suggested that this is the castle of King Henry, and I'm not sure which one. I think because I was trying to like look into like the history of it. I think probably would have been Henry the VII or the VI, but I think he was one of the Tudors at least. So I mean, obviously they're not thinking this hard about the historical thing, but they mention in like the later movies that they were born in 1408 and 1410. The girls do. So.
Oh, okay.
So in the original script, there was a character named John the Serf, who they ended up taking with them, just as like a guy they hung out with. I'm interested to see who that would have been. He was just some random dude from England. That could have been funny, but like they had enough characters to play off of.
Oh yeah.
So Bill and Ted, while they're going through trying to figure out who they need to pick, they spot Joanna and Elizabeth for the first time on the balcony. It's like very much like a Romeo and Juliet type moment where it's like just love at first sight instantly. And they sneak into the castle. They're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get to these girls? They're like, we'll take them for our history report. They sneak into the castle wearing suits of armor, and we're in full Looney Tunes mode at this point. It's such a classic gag. Like, okay, we'll hide in the suits of armor, and they decide to start goofing around and start sword fighting until Ted ends up being knocked down the stairwell. And Ted somehow off screen comes out of his armor before reaching the end, as his armor lands perfectly, as if to indicate he's there. But Bill watches in horror as what he thinks is Ted being stabbed through the heart with a sword.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's no way possible that he got out of that armor in time.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's a tense scene. It's like, wow, you're watching this for the first time. You're thinking like, wow, this movie took a turn. It's a tense scene. It had to be tough for like Alex Winter to act sad while still speaking the way he does. Because it's like, it's both like sad and funny at the same time because he's like, bogus, heinous, most non-triumphant. Like that's gotta be tough if you're an actor to like hit the right emotional beats while still being funny. You know what I mean?
It's like the dialogue is almost like Shakespearean surfer.
Yes.
You know?
It really is. Like, it's not necessarily Californian. It's not necessarily like surfer speak, but it is very West Coast, but it's not like they're not talking like Spicoli from Fast Times. You know what I mean?
No.
Like they're definitely like a couple notches above that in terms of like intellect. But Bill walks down and he spots the guard who he thinks killed Ted, and they start fighting. And as soon as Bill is about to be beaten, Ted shows up in the nick of time, just knocks out the guy and saves him. Now, of course, they hug and have that infamous no homo moment. You all know what they said if you watched it.
No, I don't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. I watched it recently, but not that recently. I don't know what they said.
Well, they like hug and then step back and say a certain word that begins with F that I probably would get canceled if I say out loud.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's a derogatory term for gay people, but I mean,
I don't remember that at all. Yeah. Wow.
It was real quick.
It was real quick, and they kind of call back to that again in Bogus Journey. Again, look, it's a product of the time. They didn't mean anything by it. It was just they were trying to go for a laugh.
Yeah.
Huh. But it was just sort of just like a total like, oh, no homo moment there. But whatever. It doesn't like slow the film down at all. It's just like Bill and Ted don't hate anyone. There's just immature kids being immature kids at the time.
Right. Well, that's what if you're me and Jimmy were out to dinner one time and I was taking him out for his birthday and we struck up a conversation with a couple older women that were at the table next to us. And it was like 10 minutes into the talk. And I said, I'm just taking my brother out for his birthday. And they were like, oh, they're brothers.
Like winking, like thinking that you guys were a couple.
Yeah.
I guess.
But I mean, it's just like,
which is fine. I was in a
kind of funny.
I took a class in college once where the professor, I don't even know how the class, the title of the class was Violence in Intimate Relationships. So
Sounds like fun.
It
sounds like a lot of laughs.
But
can I read the cliff notes?
No. But I don't even know how this class got on this topic. But for whatever reason, the professor got on the topic of another discussion she had in a different class and about like guys that get really upset about perceived homosexuality. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really totally paying attention because I was a bad college student, but she mentioned she called it the no gay seat at a movie. And my ears perked up and I'm like, what is she talking about?
To have like one seat in between?
Yeah. She was talking about another class where one of the guys, they were talking about something and this topic and like perceived homosexuality and how that's like a big deal and how somebody was saying that they would go, if they went to a movie with like just a guy friend, they would put a seat in between them.
Right.
And somebody else in the class was acknowledging that they did that. And I was like aghast. I was like, I don't understand. Like how like what if something funny happens and you want to like whisper to your buddy, whisper over an empty seat? Like I was just kind of shocked that somebody would be that threatened by it or insecure by it that they would worry about what strangers thought
right
in a movie theater. In any event, if you go to the movies with me, I'm sitting next to you.
Usually in my lap, which is weird. Like I don't know, it's like a bit too much.
Hey, guess what? Not weird. Not weird.
I mean, I know we're family and all that, but a little too much.
Yeah. We're second cousins. It's legal.
I need boundaries, Jim. That's all.
In any event. Well, I don't remember that from Bill and Ted. That's that's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It was 1989.
It's tough sometimes to judge movies through a modern lens.
Yeah, I mean, no way that would fly today, of course, as it
Oh
should.
yeah, as it shouldn't.
Yeah. So anyway, Bill and Ted they meet the princesses for the first time, and honestly, it's a very sweet moment. Diane Franklin, who was in The Last American Virgin, she played Elizabeth, and I just remember as a little kid like watching this movie, I was like, man, she is just so pretty. But
Is so in Better Off Ted?
she was in Better Off Dead with John Cusack.
Oh yeah, I said Better Off Ted. That was the TV show on ABC. Yeah, Better Off Dead with John Cusack.
That was actually going to be their spinoff after this movie. Ted and Elizabeth having their own family sitcom.
Better Off with Ted.
You're right.
Right.
That was good.
But yeah, like it was a very sweet moment how like they were trying to connect for the first time, and it's like you're not really sure if Bill and Ted ever had like girlfriends before this, but like again, just really adorable scene here, and I love how he was like, "Will you go to the prom with us?" Like that's adorable, man. I don't know, but
yeah, they try to capture a sweet moment with meeting the princesses.
Absolutely. I wonder if like being in a situation like that, like how do they decide like who's going to date who? Like does that ever get mixed up? Like okay, you take the one sister, I take the other, but it's like, do they both feel the same way? Like what if she likes the other one? Like I'm glad they didn't go down that road.
Could be a problem. I always think of the line from Starsky and Hutch.
I was just about to say.
Yeah. The Starsky and Hutch
You
line.
take the blonde, I'll take the brunette. Good, because I'll take anything.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think that was like an episode of Seinfeld where they had something like that with Jerry and George.
Oh, really?
It seems like that would be a Seinfeld episode.
Right.
But like later on, they explain that their father, King Henry, wants to, he has like this arranged marriage for them, and he wants to marry them off later that day, and they're desperately trying to escape. So they ask Bill and Ted for help, and they agree to it immediately. But Bill and Ted get cornered by the king and his guards, and they're immediately arrested and scheduled for execution. Love the Iron Maiden reference, though.
Yeah, I didn't know that as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember when I was 10 knowing what Iron Maiden, was.
Yeah.
In terms of the torture device and in terms of the rock band.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember seeing this again at like 13 and like thinking like Iron Maiden's like, okay, like that. I know that's a band. I haven't heard any of their stuff, but that makes me want to go check out their music, and I love their music. So it just kind of worked out. It's kind of weird, just a little bit of happenstance there. But yeah, great Iron Maiden reference. And then we cut to like the courtyard, where Bill and Ted they're tied up and they're about to be beheaded. And at some point the booth gets captured and is wheeled in, but by some of the guards and some of the townspeople, and they're like, oh, these guys are witches, like they're heretics, they fell from the sky, which like, yeah, that's absolutely how they would react in that. Like finally, like I said, finally someone is appropriately reacting to these strange time travelers showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And the executioners somehow turn out to be Billy and Socrates, who save them both as they ride away. Unfortunately, they leave the girls behind, but at that point they don't really have a choice because they're trying to outrun all the guards. And they narrowly escape, but end up, something goes wrong with the booth. I think it gets damaged in that whole like carriage ride and all that. So they narrowly escape, but they end up in San Dimas in 2688, which is their future. And as soon as they walk out of the booth, we hear this just gorgeous lead guitar intro. The guy who recorded the guitar parts and like all the air guitar parts and this as well as the solo was a guy named Stevie Salas. He was like a studio guy. I'm not sure who he's played with, but like he's played with a bunch of different people. And yeah, he's just like one of these studio guys that they got. I know later in the second movie they got Steve Vai to do that as well as like the score. But yeah, it was Stevie Salas recording the intro to this song called "In Time" by Robbie Robb is the name of the artist. I don't know if Robbie Robb is the name of the band or the singer, but like I've heard this song and it's just like it's a really beautiful like pop rock song. In Time, if you ever get the chance to listen to it, like the lyrics are like. It's actually like it has a lot of heart to it. It's like in time, everything's going to be all right. it's just really like a heartfelt moment in the midst of this silly comedy, and that's one of the reasons why I love these characters. Like, as funny as they are, like that song kind of amplifies what they're about, and just kind of like there's a heart to it. It's like, okay, there's some positivity. Like things will be okay if you stay positive. That's always what I got out of that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
No, I think it does. I mean, there's a lot of they try to bring a lot of positivity to it, you know.
yeah, and it's a very cool scene in which Bill and Ted meet these people from the future, who they all know who they are and just completely worship these guys and just are like hanging on their every word, and they're confused, but like just to see like all these people like looking at them like like they're saviors, and just when they when they say their famous lines, be excellent to each other and like party on, dudes, like you could see like the excitement in their faces, like, ooh, they said it. Like I said, like this really is like the emotional core of the movie. This sense of hopefulness and optimism for a better world, and the fact that music could possibly like do something like that, which is, it's impossible, but it's like it's a nice sentiment. It's nice to to dream about these sorts of things. But they end up needing to go. Like, okay, we need to continue on with our report. This is a history report. You guys are from the future. It wouldn't really make sense. So they end up going, but the booth was damaged, and the signs of the damage are already showing. Like you can hear the booth, like it's like struggling, like it's like a car engine that's struggling to turn on. But meanwhile, as all this is going on, back in 1988, at this arcade, it's sort of like a Chuck E. Cheese type of place. We see Deacon and these two girls who he's friends with, Daphne and Carrie. They're out with Napoleon, and they're sharing this giant bowl of ice cream, and they get this bizarre interaction with these two waiters, who are actually, that's a cameo from the two writers and creators. That's Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon as these two guys who do the whole Ziggy Pig bit. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. That seems like a thing that they would make employees of a place like that do, but I don't know who thought of that, but that must have been like an inside joke with them that they tried to improv on the spot. But I love how they cut to moments later when Napoleon is just absolutely scarfing down the rest of his ice cream while the other kids are just like, who is this guy? It's very, very amusing. And apparently Napoleon wins a prize for finishing this. And I wanted to ask you two guys about it, because this is like, I know there are places like that who do this, because specifically where we grew up, there's a restaurant in Wilmington, Delaware called the Charcoal Pit. And they have this big dessert called the kitchen sink. You guys remember that at all?
Yeah.
So and I think, isn't that a thing where it's like you would win a prize if you like finished it or something? I don't know what the conceit was, but like that seems like a thing that definitely happened back in the day. I don't know. I don't know if there's still places like now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are. I tried to eat the kitchen sink once, I think, at the Charcoal Pit, but I mean, I like the whole scene, how it really tries to like encapsulate the historical remembrance of Napoleon, how he just starts to like take over and
yes,
won't let
he completely hijacks everything. It's pretty great.
I thought it was a really funny scene. The actor really goes for it.
Yeah. No, this guy who plays Napoleon is great. Of course, the prize you win for finishing things like this and the kitchen sink, the main thing you win is diabetes. So.
Aww.
I feel bad immediately about saying that joke. I might edit that out. Anyway. So after like what's like a really rough trip they go through, they end up landing in Vienna, Austria in 1901, and they kidnap Sigmund Freud. So they figure like, all right, we already have more than enough, so let's just keep going and see how many people we can fit in. So they lasso Freud. Billy the Kid lassos Freud into the booth, which I thought was a nice touch. And
yeah.
So then they go to Kassel, Germany, in 1810, where they capture Ludwig van Beethoven during a performance. And I love how they just pick him up while he's in the middle of playing. Beethoven's Fifth. Like, so you immediately recognize what that is. And I also love how Socrates bowing to the crowd. That always just made me laugh for some reason. Just saying hello to everybody. I don't know. That for some reason that's just very funny to me. I don't know why. But then they go to Orleans, France in 1429, and the booth appears to Joan of Arc as she's praying. So clearly, I mean, look, Joan of Arc was very religious. She is a recognized saint in the Catholic Church. But yeah, clearly she thinks Bill and Ted are angels, and so she goes on board willingly, has this big spiritual epiphany. And that launches into the song Two Heads Are Better Than One, which I wrote down. It was credited to a band called Power Tool, but it was actually the band Nelson.
Really?
Do you guys remember the band Nelson, Gunnar and Matthew?
Yeah.
This
Aren't
was
they Ricky Nelson's kids?
They are. Yeah, they're the twin sons of Ricky Nelson, grandsons of Ozzie and Harriet. And they had a band, and they had a couple big hits. I Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection.
Yep. My friend Kevin Hook had a Gunnar or a Nelson poster on his wall.
Yeah, it's like these chicks are hot.
They just had long hair.
They did. They did.
Kevin, he had a Nelson poster right next to his Brian Prop poster.
Uh-huh.
That's what he liked, hockey. Good music.
Yeah, hey, why not? Why not? Nothing wrong with having a Nelson poster on your wall. But yeah, apparently Nelson had just gotten signed to a record deal on another label because they recorded this song for the soundtrack. So because the label that put out the soundtrack, it was a contractual thing, so they couldn't release it as Nelson, so they're just credited as Power Tool, which is not a real band. So
I bet it is somewhere.
Yeah. Fun little trivia fact there. I feel like I feel like that makes me want to start a Nelson tribute band and call it Power Tool.
Yeah. I like that.
That'd be great because I know there's a huge demand for that, right?
Yeah, there is, I think.
Somewhere. Yeah, call your buddy Kevin. I don't know, but
Kevin will be into it.
I'm down. So later they go to Outer Mongolia in 1209, and we see Genghis Khan. He's being served some food by one of his many female servants who he's clearly about to rape.
I mean, he was probably.
I mean, that's what he did.
I mean, he's Genghis Khan. That's what he did. He's about to have his way with this girl, and the booth shows up and lures this homicidal maniac in with a Twinkie. It's great. It's great stuff. It's perfect. So then they go to the White House in 1863, and I love how they use the old candygram trick to capture Abe Lincoln in the Oval Office. I wrote down clearly the Secret Service wasn't what it is today back in the 1800s.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Yes. Definitely, they were able to slip past that. So back in the circuits, the booth is just packed to the gills with people, and they spot the antenna being broken. And from what I understand, filming this scene was just an absolute nightmare because the booth was literally being suspended by wires on cranes with all the actors inside, and they were just just trying to balance it out while shooting the scene. So I'm sure that was not a fun day on set.
No, that I can't imagine that would have been a good time.
No, everyone's really huddled up close to each other and just it could not have been fun. So back in 1988, back at the bowling alley, Napoleon is there bowling with Deacon and his friends, and he's very very controlling. Of course, he's trying to take over the whole game. Very competitive. He's really into bowling. Really wants to win. But when he slides down and he starts, it's the only real cursing you see in the movie where it's shit. It's a funny scene because the kids end up ditching Napoleon without pain, and he gets thrown out by the bowling alley manager who looks just like our Uncle Ray. And,
does he?
Yeah, he does. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, once he gets thrown out, Napoleon is just very sad that Deacon isn't there. It's Deacon. It's just you almost feel bad for Napoleon at that moment. But back in San Dimas in 1 million BC, clearly they're there by accident. They're all sitting there trying to figure out how to fix the booth, and the antenna accidentally snaps off. So thankfully they had enough chewing gum and cups of pudding for everyone to snack on. They came prepared.
Yeah, a little bit of MacGyver ingenuity, but was MacGyver out then? Was he out by 88?
I think so. Yeah, he would have been on TV by then. Probably. Richard Dean Anderson? Anyone? I don't know.
It seems. I wonder if he was on in.
I mean, one of the greatest '80s mullets. Let's be honest. That thing was fantastic.
Yeah, that is true.
But yeah, it's a good thing they had like cups of pudding and like gum for everyone to snack on while they were there. Very considerate of them. I gotta feel like if they had the budget in this movie, they definitely would have been attacked by dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think so too.
There definitely would have been a dinosaur scene in here. So yeah, they finally get the booth going, and then they land in San Dimas the night before. Call back to the earlier scene. The fact that Rufus understands how much time they have left at that point is a little bit confusing, but sure, at least they're moving the plot along.
Right. Well, Rufus is keeping track of the time until their actual report because despite reminding himself, Bill still forgot to wind his watch. Right? Isn't that the bit?
Ted says to himself, "Ted, don't forget to wind your watch." And, again, good callback. So they land like the next morning in Bill's backyard, right in front of Missy, who seems just barely fazed by the fact that a phone booth has landed in her backyard, and all these strangely dressed characters that Bill and Ted have brought with them. And I love the names they make up. Dennis Frood and Bob Genghis Khan, and and then they just end up with like Abraham Lincoln. Like they don't even try towards the end, which
they exhausted all their thought process for
right. Yeah, they just ran out of like I think what it was like Maxine of Arc at one point. Dave Beethoven.
Dave Beethoven.
I like how they threw out Herman the Kid, which is great. I mean, the drummer in my band is named Herman. I might have to start calling him Herman the Kid from now on.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I always liked Beethoven.
It's like just off enough where it's like not really that much of a disguise. She's only like seems to be upset the fact that they like landed on the hose that's keeping her from like watering the plants and whatnot. She seems a little bit confused, but like, oh, hey guys, like what's going on? You brought some friends over. Nice to meet you all. There are sodas in the fridge, and like, again, she's so nice. Like she's such a nice person. But like the montage of chores is pretty funny. I like how they're going all like speeding through it like Benny Hill style, and apparently Socrates wears like boxers under his robe while Abe is ironing the robes. That seems unlikely, but okay, I'll go with it. So I'm just like laughing. It's like, I mean, as nice as Bill and Ted are, technically they've just kidnapped all these people and are forcing labor onto them.
Yeah, everyone's like kind of recruited into the group, but I mean, they don't really. Is there anyone that they actually like forced to come with them though?
Well, I mean, Sigmund Freud, they literally lassoed this man and dragged him in. So definitely Freud.
Definitely Freud, and Beethoven they just kind of carried in. I mean, okay, I guess they took a little advantage of Beethoven.
Yeah, he didn't hear it coming. Okay.
Don't shake your head.
I'm shaking my head.
It's all right. He's not listening.
Jack.
Yeah, but I mean, Joan of Arc clearly thinks that they're angels, so I mean, she was willing, she went on board, but like,
right, she did.
I was just laughing. It's like we can add kidnapping and forced labor to the list of crimes that are being committed in this movie.
The only thing this movie needed is a time cop Jean-Claude Van Damme to show up at the end.
That would have been a twist.
That would have to arrest Bill and Ted. Crimes.
That's a sequel waiting to happen. Let me tell you, it's not too late. So they later go to the San Dimas Mall, where I love how they organize everyone into teams of two and just kind of let them walk around, just check everything out while they look for Napoleon. I did find out on Facebook that like the mall that they filmed this at, which was in Phoenix, Arizona, I think just recently that mall closed down and they just recently tore it down. So it's like a lot of people on like Bill and Ted Facebook groups were like kind of sad to see that. It's like, but
it's such a great. The movie in and of itself is such a great like time capsule.
It really is.
A mall in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not quite like the Stranger Things mall, but like very similar. So while this is going on, they're looking for Napoleon, and apparently the presentations have already begun. And I guess they have less than an hour before they need to make their presentation. So they track Deacon down to his Little League game. Apparently he's playing Little League. And they're pissed, of course. They're like, "You ditched Napoleon?" And I love his response, like, "Yeah, he was a dick." Perfect. Like, yeah, he was. But then this also made me think. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like they're having their school presentations is this on a Saturday? Like, is this like a Saturday morning? Because Deacon's playing Little League. There are a lot of kids at the water park that they go to. I'm thinking this is probably on a Saturday. This probably isn't a school day. So
Which doesn't make sense. Like, what? Unless it's an extracurricular, but it seems to be part of their grade, right?
yeah, like this is supposed to be like their final like project. This is like I'm assuming this is like towards the end of senior year. They're trying to they're
Yeah.
trying to get all these important projects done before they can graduate. But they were trying to figure like, okay, where would Napoleon have gone? And they kind of connected the dots. Okay, Waterloo. So like I think I forget where they shot this water park. I think the water park might have actually been in San Dimas. But like they shot a lot of the town stuff in like the high school, like that was shot in Arizona.
Okay.
But like, yeah, it wasn't until I was already a grown adult where I found out that like San Dimas was actually a real town. Like I thought it was like a made up like town name, but San Dimas is a real place in California. Did not know that until I was much older.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think I knew that either.
yeah, so somehow Napoleon is he manages to sneak his way into the water park, and I wrote down like it's kind of disturbing that he's basically naked under a sheet, but they make it work somehow.
Yeah.
Like you could clearly see this man's pubes through. Like, I'm glad they didn't do too many close-ups on it. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
But
I wonder though, like when did they take? I'm curious, when did they take Napoleon? Because I don't think too much care was given to like did the Battle of Waterloo happen yet? When
oh, you mean like in the timeline when they
in
they plucked him
Napoleon's
from?
timeline when they took him? Does Waterloo at that point in time have any significance to him?
I don't know.
I
Like,
mean,
and also like where did he sleep? He must have been just like on the street somewhere, wandering aimless.
yeah. I mean, it's sunny there. It is probably mild temperatures. So you could probably just
I mean, I hear that California has a hell of a homeless problem right now, but I mean, back in '88, I mean, maybe I don't know.
it's probably did. He's probably on a park bench in Hill Valley with
Right.
former mayor. What
Goldie
was
Wilson.
the mayor's
Or Red.
Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Old Red.
That's the red top. Yeah, that was one of those things I didn't connect that until like several months ago. that Red the bum in Back to the Future was the mayor.
Is the mayor in 55?
Totally didn't get that, but yeah. Thank you, Jim, for pointing. It's like I was today years old when I figured that out.
I was today.
That's all right. I like I mentioned earlier. It took me a long time to understand the Iron Maiden wasn't just a torture device. Was also
yeah.
a band, so.
Great band. But yeah, like I'm not sure where Napoleon got his swimming cap from, but it works. Like it just adds to the ensemble. He has like a swimming cap and like goggles. It's perfect. Him cutting the line and like pushing little kids out of the way it's hysterical.
Yeah, it all works, and especially that he's not really like. There's not a lot of like dialogue.
No, he's just having the time of his life.
Yep, just doing whatever he wants, running roughshod over that place.
Yeah, he is living his best life, as the kids would say.
Yes.
So he's doing that, and I love how like Bill and Ted show up and they take him out of there, and it's almost like getting a little kid to get out. He's like no, I don't want to leave. Like yes, come on, Napoleon, everyone's waiting for you. So the mall montage is really great as well. I like how Joan of Arc is walking around and she sees this big aerobics demo in the mall floor because we doesn't get much more 80s than that. She sees this big like demo / infomercial for whatever this fitness program is. Meanwhile, Beethoven is at the music store, which that part is confusing because it's like how does he hear like all the synth stuff that the guy shows him? Like that part was a little bit confusing. I feel, but like
I don't know. How did Beethoven do anything he did? I mean, I'm
yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
I'm willing to bet he figured it out.
Well, in the beginning, he's deaf.
Yes.
He suffers from deafness. But once he time travels, it's like all of a sudden, even when they go and they do the chores, it's like he can hear over the vacuum.
But I don't think Beethoven was born deaf. Like I as far as I know, and I don't know my history of Beethoven that much, but I don't think he was born deaf. He probably had like a very like serious hearing impairment. and like by modern standards would be legally deaf. I don't know for sure. Again, don't let me know in the comics. Don't say
Yeah, this isn't the Beef Oven podcast.
No.
We're not Beef Oven experts.
No, he wasn't totally deaf until he was 44 or 45.
Oh,
when he
well,
was a very old man. Wah, wah.
He died at 56, so
at the ripe old age of 56 back then.
Ugh, that's terrible.
I'm sure that was about average in those times. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like you said, he didn't start losing his hearing until he was 28. So
right.
It wasn't when he was born. So
by that time, he had 6 grandkids. I don't know.
Sorry, I'm done.
No, it's fine. It's perfect.
Thank you, Amp Draw.
Amp Draw strikes again.
Told you I wasn't going to talk.
I love it. No, I love it. So,
all right, thank you. Welcome back to the podcast. Hot Takes with Amp Draw.
You stop it right now. Objection.
This is yeah, you've been lawyered.
So,
and that was Rock's best podcast.
Exactly. It's gonna be our spin-off. But I do love the music store guy going up to Beethoven. It's like, you a musician? And he just like shoots him this look like, dude, I'm Beethoven. But the best part is like Socrates and Billy in the food court just trying to pick up chicks. Like, it's the best. Like, I want to see them have their own spin-off. Like, they're so great together.
Bill and Ted 4.
Yeah, just the adventures of Socrates and Billy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd watch it.
Of course, Freud messing it up is perfect. It's like, dude, you ruined it. Like, what is a geek? I don't know. What did I say?
Yeah, Freud is pretty much the worst.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Sig, what did you do? And then Genghis, walks into the sporting goods and just trashes the shit out of it, which is about right for Genghis Khan.
Mm-hmm.
Again, brilliantly played by Al Leong, perfect 80s henchman, the henchman to the stars. Al Leong is here. And he whips that bat around pretty expertly. Like, the guy looks like he knows what he's doing. So, and then they have like the old time photos that Abe Lincoln decides to take a picture with, and like, and the guy who's the photographer, he's like, okay, I'm gonna need the hat and the stupid beard back, and he's like, did you not see this guy walk in like this? Like, he didn't raid the closet. Like, that guy's just not good at his job. I'm just gonna say it. But like, of course, he like fights his way out of it, and then like the big like montage of them running from the cops and the security guards that starts to play, and that plays in the background is the song "Play With Me" by the band Extreme, which is amazing band, really underrated out of like the late 80s, early 90s. Their guitar player Nuno Betancourt is he's just a disgustingly good lead guitar player. He's amazing. And he's actually also played with Rihanna for a bunch of years, like on tour with her, but like he's just a fantastic lead guitarist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And their lead singer, Gary Cherone, he briefly went on to sing for Van Halen for a stretch in the late 90s.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he took over.
Yeah, and Extreme had a big hit with More Than Words. This is a couple years before that, though.
Didn't Extreme have the problem that like their big hit was, not to digress, but wasn't one of their issues that More Than Words was such a big hit and it's such a mellow,
like acoustic
kind of
song,
tune, and like people coming to see their shows did not realize
like what a hard rocking band they were, and just and plus, I mean, they came out like a little bit too late, because that's like right when grunge hit, and that just totally killed their momentum for a while. So really underrated band though, Extreme. I like them a lot. But as Play With Me is going on, like the whole montage, Joan taking over the aerobics is just it's adorable. Like she's so cute. Joan of Arc is played by Jane Wiedlin from the Go-Go's.
I don't know if I ever knew that. Wow.
Yeah, she's the guitar player from the Go-Go's, and she's like their main songwriter. And she was also in one of the Star Trek movies at the time. Like, so she was like dabbling in acting and getting in roles and stuff. But yeah, I mean, she's just so cute, like taking over the aerobics thing, and
right. That's probably another thing that wouldn't, if they made the movie today, that would be.
It would be like Zumba or something.
No, but I mean that you take Joan of Arc, who was a saint in the Catholic Church and a leader, and in a modern setting, and rather than having her do something empowering, she's leading an aerobics class.
You think so?
It's a little demeaning for Joan of Arc.
You think so? Yeah. I mean, I guess some people might bump into that today. I don't know, but I didn't even think about it that way. But I mean, yeah, maybe.
I came on this podcast just for the Joan of Arc stands.
Yes. we all stand Joan of Arc right now.
Amthral's giving me looks.
God, I didn't even say anything. I'm getting berated over here. Gee.
Not at all. So, yes, but like Billy the Kid at this point, he's running through the mall, like literally shooting a gun indoors. But somehow it seems less threatening when Socrates is chasing him with like a water pistol. Like they're just having fun. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
But I mean, like again, they're all in danger of being arrested. I'm not sure why Sigmund Freud is being chased by security, and Beethoven isn't hurting anyone. He's just like jamming out on the keyboards.
He's a good time.
If anything, he's drawing a crowd into the business. Like,
right. He should get paid.
Yeah, I know, right? Like they should have him on commission or something. I don't know, but yeah. I also wrote down this is a pretty big mall to have an ice skating rink within it. You know.
Yeah.
Pretty big size mall. I mean, there's a mall down here in Florida. I don't know if they still have it, but like in Clearwater called the Countryside Mall. They might still have it, but they have a ice skating rink in there, which is pretty cool.
I was on it.
Yeah. Okay. You guys have probably been there at some point. Yeah. So they all get arrested, and so once they figure this out, Bill and Ted, along with Missy and Napoleon, they drive down to the police station, and I love how Napoleon has like the zinc oxide on his nose. Remember that stuff? Like I don't know when he had time to do that, but he's just kind of riding around in the car. He's totally cool with everything. They go to police station, and the back and forth with like Freud talking to the detective, that's a real good back and forth. It's like, how do you claim I'm not Sigmund Freud? tell me about your mother. Yeah. Also, like this one background extra that I noticed, like the guy with the giant mohawk, who's like sitting back there. I don't know if you guys remember this when watching that. There's this guy wearing this like giant mohawk, smoking a cigarette. Clearly, he's like a perp that they brought in. I'm like, I want to know this guy's story. Like, what did he do to get in there? I don't know. That's just something I always notice whenever I see the scene of them in the police station. Meanwhile, we cut back to the presentations in the school auditorium. And they have like this jock football player. I don't even know what they named this guy. I'm assuming it's like Ox or something like that. Like he looks like he would be named Ox or like Beef or something like that. So this guy, he's just struggling through and he doesn't know what to say. Typical dumb jock stereotype. But then he's just like, San Dimas High School football rules. That gets a big
That's
pop.
how I end all my closing arguments in court.
I'm like, this was a meme. This was a meme before it was a meme.
Yeah.
It is a proto meme, and I think like there's this band Save Ferris who like actually named a song San Dimas High School Football Rules.
Oh really?
The ska band. So.
It's such a good. I just love that moment in the movie.
Yeah.
When he's up there and he's just like doesn't really know what to say or have like a good closer, and he's just yells San Dimas High School Football Rules.
And it works.
Yeah, it does. I love it.
He probably passed. Let's be honest.
Yep.
So, like,
yeah,
yes. I imagine
I end all my closing arguments in court with that.
Your Honor, the defense rests and San Dimas High School Football Rules.
Yep. What I say every time I make love to a woman. Huh?
What?
What?
That's what you say with Sarah in the bedroom.
No, I mean not my wife.
Just a woman.
Just a different woman. That's what I yell. Right at the end. San Dimas High School Football Rules.
I can't really blow her up.
That's amazing. I don't know why. That broke me.
And scene.
Are you choking?
I am.
can't be laughing this hard.
I am. I don't know why.
Funny.
I need a moment.
Are you picturing it?
I am right now. No, it's like, oh, not my wife, just another woman. That was just perfect.
So
it's like that scene from Scrubs. It's like, honey, I'm gonna treat you the way you always wanted to be treated. It's Dr. Kelso. He hangs up. It's like, that was beautiful, sir. Thanks, Ted. Now just call my wife and let her know I'll be home late. Oh my God! Of all the things to break me in this podcast, that was it. That's amazing, Jim. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But anyways, Yeah.
Please, unlike my wife.
Still wait.
San Dimas high school
No,
football does not rule in that scenario.
Yeah.
No. You say beat Valley. Anyway,
Just
so
joking, folks.
nothing beat Valley. I thought that would have got something. But anyways, I love how they cut.
Is that what you said? Beat
I
Valley?
did. Yeah, like you reserve that one for the wife. Explicit tag. Here we come. All right. So they cut back to the car. I love how like Napoleon moves from the back seat to the front seat with the sunblock on his nose, like attempts to grope Missy right there and tries to like make a move. But like as soon as they come back in, he like moves away. Like I guarantee that was like an ad lib on the part like of the actors. Like this would be funny if he tries to like make a move and he's just like oh no thanks.
I wonder if there was like any ad libbing, like if there was and how much on this movie, or if they stuck tightly to the script. That's something I'd be curious about.
I mean, I feel like with some of the historical figures, maybe they could probably like allow for like just them like improv and just. I mean, certainly like with the physical reactions, they could probably like have a little bit of creativity there. I would imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. A couple of different takes. I always like outtakes.
Yeah, let them riff a little bit. Maybe like Bill and Ted have such a particular style of dialogue that they probably didn't do that too much.
Yeah, I think it would be really tough to do that because it's so specific.
Yeah, so they try to get in, but they don't have the keys, so they do this whole little back and forth. It's like, well, wait a minute, what if we go back after the report? What if we steal the keys and then leave them here now? So that becomes like this whole like time loop, issue, and like the missing keys mystery is finally solved. It's like, oh, it was me who stole my dad's keys.
Yeah, that very clever. I always like that moment too.
Yeah, good callback.
Time travel stuff they do here is very clever.
It is. And so they walk in and they decide that they're going to bust them out of prison. So it's like, let's add kidnapping, forced labor, and now prison breaking to the list of crimes being committed in this movie so far. But the bit they had with the tape recorder is actually genius. Like, I don't know how many tape recorders back then had like timers on them. Like, I don't remember having any when I was growing up where you could like set it to play at a certain time. I imagine that type of technology probably would have been a little tough to come by at like the local Radio Shack or wherever. I don't know. Like I didn't know if that was a thing necessarily back then, but they use that, and it's actually a pretty like clever thing, and it's a clever like plot device how they get Ted's dad distracted with that. But I also find it crazy how like no other cops spot these two boys as they sneak in, and they're like ducking behind the desks and whatnot, and I mean, they probably could have just like walked in, and like anytime you're trying to like walk into a place where like you're not technically supposed to be, like if you don't look suspicious, most people probably won't suspect anything. You know what I mean? They probably could have just walked in normally, and they probably wouldn't have suspected anything. Oh, is that Captain Logan's kid? Oh, okay. If anything, but yeah, like but like when they finally bust them out of prison, the rigged trash can might be the most ridiculous gag they haven't. That's like straight up Looney Tunes. Like it's like Acme, like bomb, totally like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote type of thing. And I was also writing down here, like I'm pretty sure, like were they breaking out like other prisoners while the historical figures were in there? Like I'm pretty sure a few prostitutes like got broken out of that holding cell. You know what I mean?
I mean, probably.
Yeah, why not?
The petty, just like vice crimes, petty crimes. Like,
yeah,
I don't think they let free any like major San Dimas criminals.
Yeah. No, you're going like right to prison if not to like a holding cell. But they put that basically like, oh, this guy was drinking too much, so we had to kick him out of the bar or whatever.
Right.
People
they were gonna let go tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, pretty low level stuff. But anyways, they break out and somehow they're all managed to fit into Missy's station wagon, which is classic 80s station wagon with the wood paneling. Love it. They arrive at the auditorium just under the wire. So like originally everyone thinks they're going home early, and Mr. Ryan is about to say, it's like, all right, well we're one report short today, so it looks like we might be getting out a little early and thanking everybody. When all of a sudden the presentation starts. Now the way they presented their oral report, I always thought was it was definitely an interesting choice, because I think originally they had shot a scene where they they were in the actual classroom with all the historical figures. And I mean, of course, the logistics of how everything is presented is completely bonkers, but like it plays a lot better in this scene in the auditorium. I think it's a much more dramatic, sort of climax of the film.
Yeah,
you know what I
very
mean?
dramatic.
Like I don't think it would have quite hit the same way if it's just like them in a classroom with the historical figures.
Oh no, without the lights and all that stuff that they do.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because it's like the lighting, like the stage blocking, and the overall presentation is just amazing considering how little time they actually had to prepare for this thing.
Maybe they set that all up in the future.
Perhaps they had their future selves come in and they got a few sound techs and lighting technicians to come in and do that.
Yeah, I don't know the technical specs of what they would have to do to light a place like that. Right. maybe Ant Draw can wait.
If only we knew someone who would be able to tell us. He's not talking.
Nah, he's done.
You ruined me.
The only thing is, the audience doesn't think that these are actual historical figures.
No, I'm sure from their perspective, they're like, oh man, these guys must have hired some actors, and
right.
Where did Bill and Ted get the money to do all this? But they're probably like, okay, let's go with it.
But in that regard, they only say one or two facts about each haphazard historical figure that they've assembled.
Yeah, but also when did they have time to actually prepare their report? They've been having all these wacky adventures for the last 24 hours. They would have had to write.
But what is the actual report? Everyone just comes up and it looks impressive, but in reality, it's each person just steps up and just says one or two things about themselves.
Yeah, well, I think the whole basis of the report, which was describe in your essay these in your oral report, I should say, how pick a certain historical figure or people from these particular time periods. How would they react to the world of San Dimas today in 1988? I think that was the directive of the report, from what I understood. Because there was this one girl talking about it's if Marie Antoinette was here today, she probably wouldn't say let them eat cake. She would say let them eat fast food. And today leaders are impeached rather than beheaded. But so that was the whole plot conceit of that report, which doesn't sound like all that challenging of a senior project, but sure, we'll go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not sure how they got the booth inside the building, because the booth that wasn't attached to Missy's car. They would have had to transport that from the house or wherever it was. I love how Billy the Kid fires an actual loaded gun into an auditorium full of kids. That was great. I'm just laughing. Was everyone properly mic'd on this thing? They must have had some microphones on there to really carry the sound. But Bill and Ted are just naturally comfortable on stage. And while this is going on, Missy sneaks in to watch. She was a former student there. She was a student of Mr. Ryan's, obviously. So she hey, remember me? I'm here. I'm married to his dad now. That must have been weird. I'm married to this Howard Hesseman looking motherfucker who's apparently got deep pockets.
Very deep.
Yeah. Clearly. But then we cut to a tense moment between Bill's dad and Ted's dad as they walk in. So it shows a lot about the two respective home situations and their different approach to parenting, I guess, where it's these two guys clearly don't get along. So they walk in while the presentation is going on, and I'm not sure how Ted is able to translate for Socrates, but they make it work. He just does a lot of signing. He's not really speaking Greek in this moment. Then they have the segment where Freud gives Ted this deep psychological evaluation on stage, which probably is something you should do privately, but okay. I love how they brought the psychologist chair or the couch to lie on. They somehow got that on stage. And when Ted wakes up, his hair is just, and he did this on purpose. Keanu did, just his hair was just ridiculous, poofed out, and just whoa. Again, a meme before there was a meme.
Yeah, but he had fallen asleep, almost hypnosis. Yeah. Just to go back, I always thought the scene with Bill and Ted's dads, I always thought there was an underlying current that these guys were like Bill and Ted when they were younger, friendly, and something happened.
Oh, maybe.
I always thought there was just a moment of it, which is why Ted's dad never wanted them hanging out with Bill, and I always just felt that scene right before the presentations began that there was the actors sometimes will have an actor secret. Like, both
Right.
actors' secret was that their characters used to be buddies.
They developed a whole
Kirk
backstory.
or not.
That's an interesting take. Like I would read that piece of fan fiction. Like that's not too bad. Yeah, like that definitely makes sense. I always assumed it where it's like Bill's dad was a little bit more lenient, while Ted's dad was more strict, and there was just a conflict of ideologies, and I always read it as like Ted's dad complaining to Bill's dad. It's like, your son's a bad influence on my kid and whatnot. So that's kind of the way they played it. But getting back to the Freud thing, I love how Bill just says like, nah, it's okay. It's just a minor edible complex. That's a great line. And I always laugh like, when they have Beethoven like start jamming. It's like, how did they get in all those keyboards to, in for Beethoven? Like, were they just like backstage like, hey, grab something? Unless he stole it from the music store. I don't know. And I love how they got all these props for Joan and Napoleon and everything. And I also asked, like, why is everyone in the audience eating cups of pudding? Did they just hand pudding out to everybody? Just seemed like a weird inside joke.
That's usually what we did in the 80s. We just handed everybody pudding.
It was a great, what a time it was to be alive.
Yep. Then all the allegations about Cosby, now we can't.
Right.
No more pudding.
They found out what was in the pudding.
Oh.
Too soon? Too far?
Maybe. Depends when you listen to this.
Yeah, depends.
Hey, I don't know.
If you're listening to it in 2688, it's probably fine.
But when is?
I'm sure. Yeah, by then I'm sure enough time will have passed where it's okay. Cosby will probably be one of the historical figures in the remake of this movie 700 years from now.
Oh my gosh, I hope not.
I really hope I'm not like pitching that to the studio. Someone's listening to this and getting ideas. Hey, you know what would be a great idea? No, do not use that. So anyway, just the one shot they had of like the one black kid in the audience where he was like doing the conducting while Beethoven was playing, that was funny. You just know that like this guy who's the extra, he's like, I'm gonna do something to make it on camera. I don't know. That was always just very funny to me. Great Jerry curl that guy had. And I think having Lincoln do his speech, that was a good closer. I love they immediately cut to America the Beautiful playing in the background just to get that dramatic effect. Like, all right, I'm going to say something serious and profound. Really nice touch. And like growing up, I always imagined that must be how Abe Lincoln must have sounded. I don't know, historical wise. I think Daniel Day-Lewis portrayed it as being a little bit higher, but if they do a remake, let's cast Daniel Day-Lewis in as Lincoln.
That would be great. Daniel Day-Lewis in a
in a Bill and Ted remake.
Yeah, no, but apparently that's the same thing I had heard, that like Lincoln had a high-pitched voice.
Yeah, it's just always how he's been portrayed. I mean, there's no way of knowing, honestly, but you just assume. But yeah, with America the Beautiful playing in the background, and when he has like the whole like party on, dudes, like that's a trailer moment. They're putting that in the trailer.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it was a great shot, especially with the lights. And kind of to your question earlier, like I'm laughing, like what do you think these kids think that they're seeing? Because like they seem like they're into it, They seem like they're going with it, but like it's like do they still think it's actors, or are they starting to question like, all right, what's really going on here? That guy just shot out of spotlight, for God's sake. So.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when like they go back to the booth and then they zoom off. They use the booth to travel through time again as the show ends with all like just like the rock star lighting and everything. And like when they see that, they must have been like, man, what just happened? Like, to Bill and Ted, they have a special effects budget. Like, how do they afford to do that? I'm just wondering, like, in that moment as they disappear, like I wonder like what these kids really think is going on here.
Don't they like hold lighters up and everything?
I was getting to that, and they all have lighters too. It's like
everybody smoked back then.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's Southern California, man. They like to have a good time. So that was funny. So they cut to the following night, where they're playing in the garage, trying to do what they were doing at the beginning of the movie. They're trying to film a music video, and they're having this like very like contemplative, like very like existential moment. They're like, man, like we just experienced all this stuff. We passed our history report and we're about to graduate, but like, now what? Like, what do we do? What are we supposed to do from here? Like, just genuinely like questioning their future.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I was wondering if they were like allowed to keep the phone booth, but I'm guessing probably not. They probably had to give it back to Rufus at the end, once they were done. But Rufus arrives with the princesses, and they're both dressed in modern clothing. As he took them to the mall, he rescued them from England, and not in that order, obviously. But he arrives with like these two new guitars, these two new like Flying V guitars, and he explains to them what their band is destined to do. Wild Stallion's music becomes the foundation for our whole society. It'll lead to an end to war and poverty. It will unite the planets, and allowing us to make contact with aliens and all this great stuff. I mean, I feel like they kind of ignored that in the third movie, Face the Music, because like that movie was all about we need to write one song that'll save the world, and it's like, well, it was never really about one song. It was about like their music as a whole. So I don't know. That was just always something I noticed. But yeah, he explained that like everyone in the future is a fan of their band, and that the girls are also in the band as well, with Joanna on drums and Elizabeth on keys. And so the girls are kind of surprised at this as well, and it's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. And then Rufus asks, is like, oh, if you guys don't mind, do you mind if I jam with you? And it's like, I play a little bit. And of course they have that guy I mentioned, Stevie Salas, the guitar player who recorded all the guitars. He was the one who was obviously playing that part when they did the close-up, as Rufus is just shredding guitar. And
right.
It's an amusing bit. And then they decide to start jamming with Rufus and the two girls, and that's how they close the movie. And of course it sounds terrible, but Rufus has another like fourth wall breaking moment. They do get better, and and then cut to credits. Mm-hmm. Now they did film another scene where it's like they do actually take the girls to the prom.
Oh really?
I know they did film the scene. I've never actually seen the scene on like a DVD extra, but like there are pictures, there are stills of them, of taking the girls to the prom. I forget if like Rufus arrived at the prom with both girls, because I think they were both still in like medieval gear. The princesses were, but like Bill and Ted had like tuxedo like tops on, but we're wearing like board shorts. And I remember that because when they had like the Bill and Ted action figure line, they did have like action figures of them dressed like that. So it's a fun little piece of trivia. So
yeah,
pretty soon we'll have Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the Snyder cut.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool deleted scene.
But yeah, that's how they ended the movie, and they started playing Two Heads Are Better Than One by Power Tool / Nelson, and that was it. So yeah, again, like not a very long movie. It was like about an hour and a half, like just enough time to do what it needed to do. But the movie holds up. Like it's a fun movie to watch. It definitely, it's still funny. It's still just entertaining, and yeah, it ended up being like one of these just sleeper hits, and it's great. It was definitely fun to revisit this with you guys. Any particular takeaways on your end from watching this again? After probably what I'm assuming has probably been a while. I know, like Bob, you've watched it with your kids, and they seem to enjoy it.
Yeah. I was wondering if I should pre-watch the Bogus Journey and see if continue with watching them with them, because they were telling me scenes about it. I'm like, yeah, you did watch it. We had rented it from the library, so they watched it in the car. It was keeping them entertained.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah, because I know this one in Bogus Journey, it's on HBO Max now. So if that makes it easier to come buy a copy of it, I don't know. But yeah, Jimmy, what about you? What was some of your takeaways from watching this? Some thoughts?
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies in terms of, I'm a big fan of time travel movies, and I like some of the stuff that they do. I think it's clever. I mean, I think that both Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter are fairly charming in it. They're fairly kind of lovable characters. Yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, that we talked about some of the things. There are, looking at things from today's standard, a couple of issues with it, some problems, but I think for the most part, for a movie in 1988, I think it, for the most part, it holds up pretty well. It's a pretty fun flick, and there's a lot of really smart jokes in it that I think still work or are still pretty funny. I think the idea of they take these historical figures, and regardless of where they pull them out of their time stream, they kind of encapsulate a caricature almost of that person, but it's still a lot of fun. And
I agree.
Pretty enjoyable.
I mean, I gotta wonder if this. I would think like, yeah, as a kid watching this might probably inspire some kids to like learn about history and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure it had that effect
Yeah.
somewhat on kids watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about all the movies, this came out when I was 10 years old. I think about
Hmm.
movies that, that's a pretty influential time period as a kid. And, some of those movies from the mid to late 80s, it holds up better than most. I mean, Back to the Future is still one of my favorite movies, which
Yeah.
has some issues, but I still think that fairly holds up. Bill and Ted, I mean, certainly holds up much better than some things like, Revenge of the Nerds, which I love.
Well, yeah.
It's basically like unwatchable now. I don't think I could sit through it, but yeah, I really enjoy it, and it's really carried a lot on the strength of Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter's performance. They have a great chemistry together, and
they really did.
They look like they're having a good time.
They really were, and they became like really good friends while they were like auditioning for the movie, and that chemistry really carried through, and they've stayed friends over the years. I mean, it's a good thing that they actually got the third movie made. I mean, it's a shame they waited as long as they did, because I would have loved to revisit Bill and Ted every couple of years for like the last. I wish they would have kept it going. But I mean, it's hard to imagine like anyone else playing these characters. Like they just had that chemistry there. It'd be like a cheap invitation to have anyone else like kind of replicate it, I think. Because I know the studio for a long time really wanted to reboot it. And Alex and Keanu were like, no, we want to do a sequel with them at our age, just revisit Bill and Ted, in their 50s or however old they are. And that's what they did. So. But yeah, no, it would be hard to imagine anyone else playing the roles like as well as they did. I mean, of course they had that spin-off show in which they did try and insert two new guys into it, and we all know how that turned out.
Right, and that was another popular thing. I mean, I remember there was a Ferris Bueller TV show
featuring a young Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, I think that's right.
She played Jeannie. I forget who they got playing Ferris.
I can picture the guy, but I can't for the life of me remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
But
and of course that begat Parker Lewis, Can't Lose.
Well, basically, right? I mean, isn't that what Parker Lewis Can't Lose is? Kind of like
pretty
that
much
early 90s take on a Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, give me a Ferris Bueller type, basically.
Right. Did Parker Lewis he broke the fourth wall and had things direct to camera, right?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's streaming anywhere. That's got to be. But yeah, man, thank you guys for kind of walking through this with me. This was a lot of fun. Like I said before, this movie, these characters, they really hold a special place in my heart. So it's always fun to watch them and just talk about them. And hopefully you guys at home enjoyed listening. Even despite all the inside jokes we have here, we're having a good time. So I'm glad everyone's listening. And now I know you two guys are both located in Jimmy. You're in Wilmington, Delaware. Bob, you're in Kennett Square, PA. All very close to each other. So I appreciate you guys, tuning in. I'm down here in Orlando, Florida. Anything else before we close up here?
Nope. No, I just think we should just do like a cool old timey radio voice outro.
All right.
Right? All right. And thanks. This has been the Phoenix Report on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
We'll see you in 2 and 2.
See you in a little bit. This is Jimmy for your host, Jack, and Amp Draw, take us out.
Well, let's not. let's not say we did.
I'm gonna electrocute you in your sleep.
I love how that style of DJ was also the inspiration for Quagmire's voice on Family Guy.
Hey, all right, what are you still doing here?
Yeah.
Well, on that note.
How old are you? 16, 18. All right, Mom. I like where this is headed.
The worst Quagmire quote.
Yes.
But I couldn't stop laughing when it happened.
I love how they acknowledge on Family Guy that, I probably haven't aged too well in the Me Too era, but
yeah,
probably not. Well, anyways, on that note, I'm glad we went through Bill and Ted, and this is a lot of fun, man. I love this movie. I love the soundtrack, and I enjoyed the other two movies as well. So. Who knows? If you guys end up wanting us to do Bogus Journey or Face the Music, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, for Jimmy, for Bobby, I'm Jack Connor. This has been the Phoenix Report, and be excellent to each other, will you? Take it easy.